practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages, as well as all the lyrics of all the top rock songs. And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun.
This is a special request. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensibilia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show. I'm your host, Adam Dunn.
I'm your co-host, Mitch Shanasa.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Wow. Smooth. We're a little bit late today due to some crazy electrical. There's a lot of wind out here in Colorado.
A lot of growers out here in Colorado.
Could be growers, could be wind. We're not really sure.
Combination can't be good for
I saw
electricity.
tree limbs down in the parking lot, so I'm assuming that it could be something like that.
I saw a Lamborghini in the parking lot.
Did you?
I somehow associated. I was like, these motherfuckers got a Lamborghini and the electricity's not working. There's something funny going on here.
Definitely a connection there. Definitely a connection. So, what a crazy week, huh?
Yeah, so Friday we were on HBO. Well, Adam was on HBO.
Actually, my side of my head was on it.
Yeah,
I didn't even get a full face shot. I was like, really? Am I that ugly?
We did like the back head.
Side of my head. People are going, is that the side of your head on HBO?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
That's us. But Hood Lab got
some
well.
great press. If you haven't seen the thing yet, I think it's the season 2, episode 6 or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And it was
the Rocky Mountain High
edition. Actually, a kind of lame, I'd have to say pretty lame.
Well, everything except us was lame.
Yeah,
and I'm not just saying that for us.
Well, obviously it was.
Right. But I mean, like, what else did they show? They showed.
Well, it was just weird. They showed all the stuff that none of us have ever seen. Like we've never seen guys coming.
Did you know Dixie Elixirs had 160 products?
No, and that's the thing. I think a lot of those things were like, it might have 160 products. They don't sell 160 products.
Yeah, exactly. That they've made over the years. Well, in that case, you and I must have 30,000 products by now.
So, no, and it was also like they showed the guys who were like ex-Blackwater security
those
dudes.
were the best.
And they all were cruising around with AKs and M16s and things. And it was just like, this isn't really the image that we're trying to show. And
Nor is it reality. You know, it's funny because I was talking
and
to
it all changed between the time that show started and now. It's like things have already kind of loosened up a bit. I mean, it's like people are definitely getting to the point where banking's going to be normal again. I hope, we'll see. Who knows? But the idea that they're just basically trying to entice people to say, like, look, they're carrying around lots of cash, and I was like, you guys couldn't set us up more for failure on that one.
Vice has. I don't know. I know they like to cover war zones, but it's not their responsibility to create a war zone.
Yeah. So anyway, they kind of tried to hype up this situation here as being a little bit more extreme, I think, than it really is.
I was talking to someone on a consulting deal the other day, and they were from Florida, and they were really, like, I don't want to be in a building with a bunch of cash, and I was like, I've literally never ever heard. He was like, he was worried about kidnapping, and I was like, I've never heard of a legit badged situation turning into that kind of thing where you're like. I've heard of people getting kidnapped and all that stuff, but it's always some shady deal with someone you don't know.
Of course, it's not
like a store. Yeah.
No, of course. And anyway, but it was definitely some awesome press because, in my opinion, the way it started off was awesome. They just showed Denver and then straight into the Hood Lab. So I was like, pretty much telling you when you land here, that's the first spot.
When you see the skyline, come here.
Exactly. So that was awesome.
It was super cool. We had a nice little viewing party there. So let's prep for the show. Prep everyone for the show.
Yeah,
so
we got a pretty interesting. We have the never-ending story of Chem Dog going on.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Second hour, we do have the never-ending story of Chem Dog. This time we actually got Joe Brand calling in, which is
awesome.
It's the actual Chem reunion on the show. So and they're going to talk about the reunion. P-Bud was like, that's kind of a crazy story because he and Joe kind of sought Chem out to reunite with him. So that we're going to kind of hear that today. Also, we got Dabs. First hour, we're going to talk about Dabs, BHO a little bit, but specifically to me, Dabs.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on right now in that world. I mean, basically, it's a kind of influx at all times. It seems like the whole concentrate game in general, just because we're adapting and learning so fast and changing maybe what we like, and or it just seems to be like the. Also, for the regulation side, it seems to be the one where it's the most,
definitely
finite.
the most dynamic, the one where it changes the most fastest, and the technology has a lot to do with that. everything that's coming together is
Yeah, well, a lot of it is. I mean, and then it also is. It's like kind of like it's kind of like how it spreads out across the nation, and you really see it because we're here in the epicenter of it. Also, for us, is a little different. But other places, it's like they're hearing about this thing and they're So we want to kind of help them.
First
don't blow themselves up. Right?
Yeah, that's
that's our number one concern.
Yeah, but our number two concern should be for people who are here in the epicenter should be to shout out Way to Grow. Way to Grow. 6 stores all over Colorado: Boulder, Fort Collins, Lakewood, Denver, Colorado Springs, Central Denver. What do you know about the sale they got going on, Adam?
Big dirt cheap sale. They're calling. I would call it a dirt bag sale myself.
I know you would,
because I like to use the word dirt bag.
And that's why you're doing an internet radio show, and Corey has Way to Grow.
That's right. Exactly. Anyway, they're doing a dirt cheap sale. They have Roots Organics for $10.99. That's a super deal. Pro Mix bales for $30. Cocoa for $11. Veriflower for $12. And Perlites for $12. Make sure you don't get a hole in that perlite bag before you leave the store, though, because those are nasty, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Perlite's a pain in the butt.
Check out Way to Grow Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, they're 10 to 6. You can call them, get it ordered if you can't get to the grow store on time. Check them out. Waytogrow.net has all their locations listed. So let's talk dabs now. I think letting people know not to blow themselves up. To me, it was crazy because we were just talking. I took my first dab 2009. We're going to call the gentleman who gave it to me, my good bud, Jeremy Norrie, who is the organizer of the Secret Cup, also ex-Treating Yourself editor when that was going on. And that was off like a hot plate, what we call like a Hashmaster cut curve. He had went and took that curve out to Amsterdam and entered it. And I mentioned the piece we smoked off because like at some point, in the 70s they were making hash oil and putting it on joint papers, from what I understand.
Yeah, and that's always been the complication part of it. Is how do you consume this stuff? You know what I mean? And people hot knifed and things like that. But we talked about before, you can't really carry like a stove around with you wherever you go, right? So, or pull out your stove. People do. It's funny too, because in other places like where people are really into it,
people do. Yeah,
they will pull out their little stove and start going
like
on
camping stove type.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, it's definitely not practical.
Is it less practical than carrying a propane torch though? Like a propane stove versus propane torch.
Convenience side, I'd say a torch would be a little more convenient. That's for sure. But in general, yeah, it's just like technology catches up to where we're at, and we actually get to the point where people now. It's interesting too because it's such a simple concept. We're trying to heat up a nail or heat up something and
heat up a surface, yeah,
and then drop this on top and then consume it and make sure it goes through water so it cleans it all up. Pretty simple, but yet we can make it as complicated as we want. So you see, there's like started off. I think Vapor Swing was kind of like the first real commercial adaptation that made people go, aha! Now I can take this and retrofit it into my bong.
Existing piece, yeah,
exactly, and that was interesting, but it was also kind of messy sometimes, slide off the side, and my table was completely covered and so it had
sure. It did the skittle because the oil back then wasn't the same quality either,
right, and
so
it would spatter and
the sizzle dance. It's funny, I was thinking on the way down here, like a lot of people have taken their first dab off an e-nail or just thinking what the piece you took your first dab off of really shows when you got in the game.
Sure.
So we're going to call Jeremy right now and ask him what he took his first dab off of. I'm very curious to know that.
There you go.
Because those dudes were messing with oil before I was smoking weed, which is weird because I think they're like my age or younger. So I just feel like I came to the game late.
Once again.
I know. Show up late, but do
late
a good job.
Yeah, well, there you go. Get there late and become obsessed, right?
Yeah, exactly. I believe he does.
Hello.
Hey, Jeremy, what's going on, bud? It's Mitch.
What's up?
Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show. You're live on the air.
With me.
Awesome.
With Adam, yeah.
Live.
So we were just talking about how it's kind of strange, or interesting, I should say, that like kind of the piece you took your first dab off of indicates when you got into, mine was off of the swing from you. So a lot of people's first dabs will be off of
I would
emails.
agree entirely with what you guys are saying, for sure.
So what was the first piece you took your dab? What is the piece you took your first dab off of?
That would be the first. My experience was that I had seen pictures of swings on the internet, and I didn't understand what they were.
Circa what year are you talking here?
Gosh. It's really hard to say. It was between 2000 and say, gosh, well, we came to the Cup in 2009. And
Right,
we
that's
won,
when you gave me my first dip.
right? So
Yeah.
then it had to be a few years maybe before that, you know, because I had seen these things from people in Canada on Toke City and read the big oil post on Toke City. And that's where it all started as far as I'm concerned, you know, like...
Bring me up to speed on that, because I don't... First of all, Toke City was an internet message board, yeah?
Still is, right?
Still
okay,
is, I
so
think,
there's a website, I believe it still exists, it's called Toke City, and it was primarily for glass, but it also had like a message board and or a bulletin board system or whatever you want to call it, and it was quite elaborate. Prior to that, there was Overgrow, and it was like the end-all, be-all.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
we're going to get into Overgrow later when we have the Chem family on.
Right. Okay, so there you go. So it was kind of like after Overgrow went down, a lot of people went to different places, and it was one of the places that a lot of people went. And Hashmaster Cut and some other guys were on there. I forget who posted the original oil tech teaching how to make BHO, and then, I mean, it went over everything. It taught you about a 5-time refine and everything in that first post.
Would you say that it's consistent with the current state of the art? Because I know when I talked to you a couple of years ago, you
It's constantly evolving.
Yeah. So, and
I would
I
say
do
that
want to come
currently
back
what we
to
have
that
is
too.
very different.
Very
but-
different. Okay, so where was it back then? What was the first oil that people were... Because I saw a tech, it might have been that tech on Arrowwood. And I want to say this was like around that era, and it was PVC tubes with a mesh screen, sink screen on the end.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, the original thinking was that white PVC was okay. A lot of the original people were using black ABS, which is not even okay to have water in. It's for sewage. So it's not a sanitary thing. People originally were using that. The first people, like Isaac, when I first saw him, his friend taught him with that. And they were just drilling holes. They didn't even have a filter in the bottom.
Oh,
They
that's
just had
right. It was
little
an end
holes
cap
in
with
the
little
bottom
holes
for
in
the
it.
tubes.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I noticed in the Toke City one was that they had kind of like refined this technique. So they had gone over and they had added coffee filter, and then they had said that ABS was no good, that PVC was okay, that the best was stainless steel or glass. And I think that's pretty close to still the standard on that.
I mean,
I think
for
all the
you
machines
Cali
now
open
are mostly
blasters,
stainless
yeah.
steel. Although I have heard of people using titanium. Some of the people that I knew.
I
back
saw
in
a
the day that
titanium
were
rig back in the day.
good.
No, he's talking about like blasting chambers.
Yeah, blasting chamber. I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that. Oh, sorry, not rig.
Yeah, blasting
Yeah,
chamber.
I've seen a
Exactly.
really cool one back in Cali. It was pure titanium. It was made by these guys who worked for Boeing on the side, so it was pretty awesome. They would we work for Boeing and make these titanium tubes, but they had a swing on it, so you could basically it was really big. You'd load it all up, and then you'd swing the whole thing upside down. It had like its own.
That's awesome.
Base to pivot on?
Had a base to pivot on. It was pretty awesome. It was
Yeah.
taken. It was taken in a raid, unfortunately, but it was definitely one of those pieces of equipment which you were like, okay, game changer right there. Don't have to touch it, blast it, flip it, done. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's the progress. All these Toke City ones originally were small. Like, they weren't giant tubes or anything like that. They were homemade ones, and these people were, like, growing pot and making their own oil for themselves. It wasn't
Sure.
commercial.
Oh yeah, of course.
And the first swings were also homemade. The guys on there were basically taking down stems that, if you remember the original down stems with grommets, they were kind of flared at the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they would take those down stems, they would candy cane them, they would heat them up and then twist it so it looked like a candy cane, and then they'd wrap some metal on there and then swing it under.
So
you
were
know,
they
and all
using-
the first swings were just wrapped. You know, they weren't welded or anything like that. They were just
Yeah, I
little
remember
chunks
them
of
too. They had
titanium.
little twisties.
Yeah.
Yep, totally.
Were they using titanium swings then, though, or was
So
it?
when I came into it, yes, they were. Like, they had done some sort of discussions at that point where they had thought of all the different types of metals, and they had come up with this idea from hot knifing.
All right,
which
wait,
was like
so
kind of a
let's-
cumbersome task. And they were like, well, how do we do hot knifing?
Let's pause
but, like,
there for 1
make
second
it a little more
real
simple.
quick, because I just want to establish.
Who's
So
they?
the reason that we all who's they, and the reason that we all think titanium is the best thing to dab off is because some guys on an internet message board decided that. Is that
Yeah, basically, Hashmaster Cut. I would blame him almost entirely.
It's blaming. He's not crediting. He's blaming.
And they said that they went through and they were like, well, titanium grade 1 doesn't taste as good as titanium grade 2. And, you know, it's the same thing we go through now with all these internet scientists going
for
through
sure,
and
for
saying
sure.
this and
I
that.
didn't. I just
But-
had assumed that like someone with a degree in metallurgy or something, because you know that's what.
Oh, no way.
Well, have you ever seen when they describe when you heat up titanium, the reactions and stuff? It's pretty amazing. It's like 3 pages long, and you're just like, wow, there's a lot going on there. It's not just, you know, oh, it heats up, cools down, it's all good. It's like, it definitely, there's a lot going on. It's
I
like,
know there's a
I've
thing
always
called
felt
titanium
like it's likely
dioxide.
something bad is happening, but
Yeah. So that's all right. So obviously we've learned since when we were dabbing off big
yeah, I
pieces
think
of titanium
absolutely.
that we
you
dabbed
could
off
see
of
the
red
whole
hot.
progress. We didn't call it dabbing back then either. You know, it was
What did
just,
you call it then? Smoking oil, right?
Yeah, smoking oil. They had coined the term BHO, which was the butane honey oil.
Right.
Some people called it butane hash oil, but they kind of separated it from hash, where they were trying to call it something else. And all these terms started to come up, concentrate and extraction and all these things started to become more and more popular with here in America. So hash has existed other places a lot more popularly. We didn't really have that, so for us this was like a really new thing.
Yeah, that's something we talk about a lot because Adam, living in Amsterdam, obviously became more into hash. I was in Amsterdam for like 12 hours, and I was like, fuck the weed.
yeah, it's all about over there. It's all about the hash for sure, and I think that's kind of where the evolution of when you have a lot of weed around you, you start to get to this point where you're like, well, wait a minute, this is actually, I only really want to smoke that part of it anyway. So let's figure out how we can do
Exactly.
that. You know, and that's the basic principle of it all. Concentrating.
The thing I find interesting about regular hashes is that I don't find like the essence of the plant doesn't necessarily come out the same way in the hash. A lot of times the hash has like got different flavor to it entirely, and
So
it's
it depends on-
enjoyable.
sometimes it's
but, like-
concentrated, and sometimes it's completely lost in the mix. Is what it is, I think. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. That Dutch moonshine that I used to get was incredible. But I have no idea what strain that's made from, and like certain things like that, I had awesome experiences with, but they were just totally different.
For sure, the process definitely affects the flavor compounds a lot more, whether you're putting it in water or heating it or whatever
Sure.
you're doing.
big time.
Right.
But it's kind of like Adam says all the time. He compares it to cookies. Like not Girl Scout cookies, but actual cookies. Where you're like, yeah, cookie dough tastes different from a cookie, but you're there to eat a fucking cookie, not the cookie dough.
Yeah, and if you go in there thinking, I mean, of course it tastes great, but it's going to give you a stomachache later too. So you should try to treat things kind of the way they need to be treated. And hash,
Right.
Hash is one of those things where, I've seen plenty of weed which was pretty bunk produce awesome hash. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And very rarely I've ever seen really good weed make bunk hash. That doesn't happen very often. So it's kind of like it's a step up usually. And a lot of people don't realize that. They might have a big bag of something that they wouldn't want to smoke necessarily because it's too much, greeny or the flavor never came through. But the minute they turn it into hash, it's like all of a sudden it's top dog. You know what I mean? So
I agree with that with the old techniques, not BHO.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. BHO, and that's an interesting point. In some sense, because you're sort of extracting the essence with BHO, you're almost that's the real proof. You're really
It's like 95% starting material, I would say.
So
For sure.
Like we've gone through a lot of experiences. I know a lot of extract artists, and I've seen a lot of tech, and you're not turning shit into gold with BHO. You're
Bubble
just
Man
not.
says the same thing.
you
Bubble
know?
Man gives all credit to the grower.
Oh,
That's
of
what
course.
makes good hash.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's for us. It's like super, super important. Little thing. I think that's the next evolution, actually, of oil, is lots of little things growers are going to do to the plant when they're growing it to make the oil better.
That's interesting. We just had the Cannabis Cup winners on, and something that everyone was sort of discussing. Well, the hash makers were saying it's all going to be about blends, different combinations and such.
That's for sure also a thing that'll be
But
in the future.
the other
also.
piece that the growers were saying was like, yeah, you know, the flavors. I don't want to say terps. I'm not going to use that word anymore because I just so I saw someone refer to meatloaf as terpy the other day. So we're not going to use the word terp.
Meatloaf.
I
is
use
turkey?
it for everything.
I know.
My steak has awesome terps.
Yeah, well, I mean, and actually, for the record, whenever it's a plant, that is true. Any plant smell is
Definitely not
terps.
steak.
Steak is not terps. That's glutamate. But so I think I totally lost my train of thought. We were talking about terpenes. I know that.
Well, let's
No, we're
see.
talking about the blends. We're talking about blends.
Oh, the blends. Yeah.
And the future.
Exactly. So yeah, you know, a lot of guys are talking about how they're harvesting things early, so they can get it when the terpenes are maximized in their production, and the taking it not necessarily for the trikes, but essentially growing for the oil that's going to be made from it rather than the flour.
Yep,
Well,
that's the future.
Yeah, the future is the past. The future is basically how people before we decided that smoking flower was the way to go back in the 70s because we're a bunch of Americans and
Did we decide that, or was it
we
just
did.
the option that was?
No, we
available?
kind of did. I mean, the people in Thailand and people like that still smoked weed, but most of the culture that we went to, like when we went to, Becca Valley and all these, but those people, nobody smokes flowers there. I mean, nobody.
Right.
Unless you're a peasant,
Like
pretty much.
straight up, you're
Yeah.
like a beggar.
Yeah, beggars.
I've always equated it like
Beggars
this.
smoke.
I've said it.
This is Jeremy,
In
who
other
went up-
countries, it's like yeast is to bread. They
Right.
just look at it like, oh, that's not finished.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the thing and that's the whole finishing process that we're always referring to here, which is not been sort of taken into account when it comes to a lot of times with the fact that when you produce these extracts, you're smoking them within a week. You know what I
Right.
mean? So there's no
Especially when they're grown to market.
there's no actual time frame where you can preserve these things properly and or treat them or handle them properly. So
one thing I just do want to just oil has a lot of applications in edibles, as we know, and I do want to get to that. But speaking of which, let's definitely shout out Incredibles.
Oh yeah,
Here in Colorado.
Our other big sponsor out there, Incredibles, number one edible here in Colorado, voted in Westward this year, but doesn't even need to be voted by Westward. We all know because we've seen this company evolve and turn into pretty much. They got what about 1, 2, 3. They got like 12 bars. now?
12 bars.
Bam.
They're all amazing flavors. They're in so many stores. I tried to print that list, dude, and I was like, there's no way.
Ran out of ink.
Yeah, so go to IncrediblesColorado.com. I did print their website this time, and they have like a cool store finder thing. So
Nice. Yeah. So if you go there, you can pretty much find out where they are closest to you. Favorites?
yeah, what are your favorites? I always say.
Well, I mean,
mine.
Fireberry's always been my favorite just because it's the bomb.
Did you know that the
combo.
Mile Higher one? This one's also 300 milligrams.
Yeah. That's also, and this peppermint too, which is pretty sweet. But
You ever
I
go
like to-
fire
I
and
like
ice
to-
on it? Maybe a little of
The
each?
thing about edibles in general is I actually don't want them to taste super good. I mean, not that they don't taste good.
No, I feel you.
The Fireberries burn, so it's like when you eat hot food, you kind of slow yourself down. It paces you.
Puts
you
the
know?
brakes on. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, whoa, I was gonna consume that very quickly, but or it makes you do the opposite. It makes you just go like crazy because you want to get it over with.
Yeah. Right on. Well, let's
not to get sidetracked.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Let's go back to dabs. Let's talk a little
Hey,
more.
now, Jeremy, I want to ask you a quick
Hey,
question.
am I the only one that gets drunk from edibles? I just got to ask. Because, I get wasted.
As far as hangover drunk, or you get like during
Like,
the...
I act like I'm drunk when I'm on, when I get...
no,
some
that
good-
Well,
definitely
no, it
happens.
happens because it's all about this. Like I definitely slur right off the bat.
It's
and then-
like stumbly walking.
and that's yeah, exactly. No, for sure. I
it
wanted to
gets
ask you.
loosey goosey.
I wanted to ask you something, Jeremy, because we were talking earlier, Mitch and I, before with the show about like the first time we did dabs. Now, when I came out there that one time and I came to the shop and Dan was running it and you guys were all there and I was with Isaac and everybody. That was kind of the first time. Modern dabs, I'd say. But in 1993, I had this guy who came over to Amsterdam, and you might know him because he's pretty famous in Cali. And I don't remember his name, of course. But it was in 93. He was from San Francisco. He had white hair. It's like super white. And he was obsessed with getting people high with his hash oil. And he had like a sewing needle, like a knitting needle, and a piece of charcoal, and a flipped over glass pipe. And he'd basically drop a dab onto the charcoal, and you'd hit it on it with the pipe over the top. And it was definitely butane extraction because he was really, really adamant about not telling us how he made it. And I had Rob Clark and I had Watson and everybody there, and we were trying to grill him. I think we tried every solvent in the world except for butane. None of us said butane, but we tried every combination we could come up with, and he said, no. but he was apparently pretty famous. He died a couple years ago. He had cancer or something. But do you know who I'm talking about by any chance?
I'm thinking maybe it's Old Ed. I'm not entirely certain on a name. I might
Somebody
know
out there
who it
knows.
is.
Somebody out there knows, because basically he came to all the parties at my place in Amsterdam and pretty much, I would say, got everybody dabbed out on the first time ever, because 93 there really wasn't. But it had that real mango background flavor that kind of you get with when you pull it out with butane, that you don't get with any kind of other solvent that I've seen so far, and so
right.
So yeah, well, just
I'm
trying
not
to
sure.
figure that guy's
one
name.
of my first experiences was when Isaac's friend came down from Oregon. His name is Chris, and he taught Isaac like this technique on it, and
let's everyone
looking
let
back
everyone
on it,
know
very amateur. But
when we're talking about Isaac, we're referring to Isaac from Dub Glass, who's been
Isaac from Dub Glass.
Serious OG in the oil game.
And he used to, back then he worked for Faded, or maybe it was Illustralight back then. But he had a friend that was a really good glass blower show him this technique, and then that was the first I had seen it. And then my next experience with it was I lost touch with Isaac, and then I ended up going up north for a friend to pick up weight for him on a regular basis. And he was a very, very sick person. He had Crohn's disease, and he couldn't go to get this medicine for himself. And he had, aligned himself with all the medical stuff. This was well before we even had dispensaries here in California. It was up in NorCal. And, I would go up there and I would get loaded down with this stuff. And then one of the times the guy handed me a little plastic thing with, it was shatter. Now, I had never seen shatter. The stuff that Isaac had been making was always liquidy, sappy, or however you want to call it. And this stuff stuck to the container and I couldn't get it out, and I hated it. And I thought it was terrible. I thought, oh, what the hell is this garbage? And then I went there another time, and they had packaged it in a different package. This time they had put it in a little Ziploc baggie, and I could peel it right out. And that time I was able to use it, and I just put it on top of a bowl. There was no dabbing back then. We didn't have any of the tools.
And that's definitely how I think most people smoked hash oil pretty much for a long. That's how I definitely first smoked it before you gave me my first dab. That's kind of how I really distinguish between dabbing and smoking hash oil.
I actually have a card that I made for those dispensaries prior to them selling any sort of dabbing equipment, so that they could sell the oil that we made. Dan bought oil from us before he ever blasted a tube or anything.
And you're talking about Big D from Top Shelf Extracts, yes?
He was one of the ones that used to use this card because there was no dabbing tools. So what Isaac and I learned in Amsterdam was that you would smoke a bowl of flour out of a pipe, and then you'd have this bed of ashes.
The ash bed,
and
yeah. You put hash
and you could put your hash right on top of that and smoke the hash alone, and you would get kind of the full flavor of the hash without interrupting it with the other things, or as best as you could do that. And that's how we did the oil. We'd put the little piece of oil right on top of the ashes. It would kind of soak into the ashes, and it would kind of catch fire all around the outside, and kind of smolder on the inside until it was all finished. And it was great. It was an incredible thing, and it was very similar to taking a dab. It was like a huge, huge expanding hit. So if I would give the oil to somebody, they would never know what to do with it. They'd have a very similar experience that I had, and they would, misuse it or not really get the full flavor or understand, what it was. But if I came into a shop and I just took a pipe and I gave them a hit the way we do it, sold every single time, because they would just get destroyed. And they'd never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, that first dab is really, I'll never forget my first real proper dab. I think most people.
I think I forgot mine actually, but at the same
it's
time,
the highest. Oh no, I don't remember it clearly, but I remember that moment in my life.
What I remember, which was interesting, when I went to Dan's shop out there that time, which was I think around the same time, around 2008 or 9 or something like that. Was just
it was 2009 probably, right around then.
Yeah, when I think it was just coming out to the first expose show, maybe it was, or something like that.
THC expose,
or the first one.
2010.
Was that 10 or 9?
Yeah, because I wouldn't have gone.
It's gotta
It
be
might have been
9.
9.
I think it was 9. I think it was 9. Yeah. So then I basically
I don't think.
I drove out to the shop and then I went there, and it was actually kind of cool too because it was right next to the liquor store, and that was looking really run down and horrible. And then the shop with all the weed was looking like it was still kind of behind
Now you
bars.
went to SC Pot, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the second place that Dan worked.
Okay, and then what happened was it was interesting because I went there and they had that like art gallery vibe there, and I really liked it because it had. I definitely was feeling the combination between the weed and the art, and these guys were on the same tip. They had a pretty cool interior. And then what tripped me out was watching these like surfer dude kids kind of rolling in and being like, grabbing getting their dabs and going over to sitting down, pulling out their torch. And I'm just thinking, coming out of Amsterdam, I'm like, this would never happen in Amsterdam.
It's kind of like a shooting gallery almost, right?
Yeah.
The vibe was like, whoa, this is kind of weird. I wasn't sure
I'll tell you personally that is exactly what happens when you do that in Amsterdam. People are like, what are you doing?
Exactly. So it was definitely like eye-opening for a guy who'd been living in Amsterdam for about 17 years at that time. And I was just kind of like, oh, man, this is interesting to watch America kind of leapfrog almost in the sense of like, when the first time you go into a shop in Amsterdam and you're like, they have weed on the menu? Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a big deal. Now it was more like, they're letting guys walk around with torches. Like, what is going on?
Exactly.
So it was a bit foreign to me at first too. And I think actually that's where the e-nail now will ease it into people literally, where they don't have to hear that, because the torch definitely I like the torch personally because I'm in control of the whole situation, but a lot of other people get really weirded out by that, obviously, and you can.
Yeah, I remember the first time. One of the things that also made it kind of easier for me is that the first torch I bought, I went into Bed Bath & Beyond, and I went into it's the cooking section, and the first torch I bought was mainly for women who cook.
It was a creme brulee torch,
it's a
right?
creme brulee torch.
Yeah, that's the classic. I still roll with the creme brulee.
Of course.
On the regular.
And so I was like, oh, well, if chicks are using this thing, then, like, how hard can it be?
And
how
then you proceeded to burn
so I
yourself?
felt a little better. But I love the torch now, too. I agree. I think that it gives off this crack vibe that people are like, you're doing some sort of real drug here. Where it's not, they don't like instantly think, oh, this is weed. They think, oh, no, this is something else.
That's not a totally foolish conclusion, because it's like no natural substance needs to be heated that hot. So, this has to be like a chemically refined thing that you got to get it that hot for it to do its thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you also. So if you actually talk to people who smoke crack, they're like, yeah, that's not how it works.
Well, obviously. Yeah. It's
These
an
things
all-adapt
wouldn't
thing.
really be good for smoking crack on unless you like get them super red hot and then get it on there right as it's super red hot. And it's a whole different thing, I guess. But
the average person knows probably as little.
Yeah,
about
I had the
smoking
same
crack as
experience
they do
when I
about
saw
those.
it. You know?
Yeah.
I thought exactly
How did
the
this
same
discussion
thing.
go towards crack? I looked down at my computer for a second, and now we're all
Everyone's
we're
talking
on,
about
we're on crack now. No, not here, but just in general.
Yeah.
Did they?
But yeah, like it's a tough thing to overcome for the average person. So you have to really have a vested interest in this to be like, okay, I see the torch, I see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I still want to find out more here.
Of course.
We got about 5 minutes till we take our little break here. Are you cool to hang with us after the
as long as you want. No worries.
Cool, man. So we want to add Addison from Steep Hill to the convo and kind of take it from the past to the future. So we're going to give him a call right now. It's the third number on the list there.
That's one of the things I most enjoy now about oil is talking to the actual scientists. So, like, one of my most favorite experiences was going to Steep Hill and speaking to their actual lab technician about, like, his experiences doing testing and, like, how they create, the different tests and how they create, like, isolated chemicals and all the experiences that they have and the future they see and stuff. They're the most interesting people to talk to about oil now, for sure.
I think it's cool, too, because really the first references I found to oil is like that.
Latest Verizon ringback tone while your party is reached.
Awesome. Ringtone. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Baller. Total baller.
Yeah. He has to pull over the Rolls Royce so he can have the butler answer.
Great Papon, sir.
Addison's so classy.
yeah, I didn't tell him we're calling. That's my bad. I mean, I told him we were calling around now, but then we had the technical. Why don't we hang up before?
Hi, you've reached Addison.
Oh no, I'm gonna tell him we're calling. That's fine.
You hung up, everybody?
Time to take a break.
Time to take a break.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and we'll call Jeremy back after this.
There you go.
Cannabis is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannabis is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannabis is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannabis. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannabis is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannabis is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannabis difference.
Independent Records and Videos has been your locally owned and operated choice for music, movies, and lifestyle accessories since 1978. Independent Records and Videos has 7 locations from Denver to Colorado Springs to Pueblo to serve your entertainment needs. Whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, smoking accessories, or hundreds of other fun and fanciful items, Independent is ready and waiting to make your dreams come true. We are always buying, selling, and trading vinyl, CDs, books, and DVDs, so sell yours and buy ours. Independent Records and Videos, your entertainment headquarters. Check us out at beindependent.com or on Facebook.
This segment was brought to you by The Farm, a medical marijuana care center located at 2801 Iris Street in Boulder. The Farm carries premium cannabis, edibles, and Hummingbird brand products. Visit our new cannabis lifestyle store for your local artesian glass, vaporizers, and hemp clothing. The Farm has been serving Boulder since 2009. Isn't it time you come and see what we have to offer?
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Ideal 420 soil is preloaded to perfection with all your nutrient, microbial, and biostimulant needs. It's compatible with all strains and is good for a 22-week grow cycle from seed to harvest. This product is 100% organic and gives your marijuana that awesome aroma and smooth taste we all desire. Ideal 420 Technologies is well-grounded in soil chemistry, soil physics, and microbial biology, making them the most advanced soil company in the marijuana industry. They do the science so growers can focus on what truly matters, the plants themselves. No more mixing and feeding of expensive nutrient lines, supplements, and foliar sprays. Not to mention, the company is prideful in being the most consistent soil product that has yet to hit the market. Due to the results when using Ideal 420 soil, they are quickly changing the standard for cannabis cultivation. To order the product, go to ideal420soil.com. Use promo code INTHELAB for an additional 20% off.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
The Law Office of Edson Maton and Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson Maton and Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com.
National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Convenient conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Oh, we're back live on the Adam Dunn Show. Adam's off handling some things, so I want to continue the discussion. We lost Jeremy there. We're going to call him back, and hopefully we got Addison lined up. If you missed it in the first hour, we're talking about hash oil. We're kind of bringing, I don't know, it's been a recent explosion, no pun intended, in the technology, in the popularity, in the progression of the, state of the art. So we're going to bring Jeremy Norrie back on in a couple minutes. And Jeremy was talking with us. He kind of gave me my first dab. He gave you one of your first dabs, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it was at Isaac's house, but I mean, it was all the same kind of
right, that crew. Yeah,
Hello.
Exactly.
Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to reach.
D-Money, the one and only.
It's the Adam Dunn Show, D-Money.
Yo,
D-Money, what's good, bud?
Went through your secretary there. She let me through. Thank God.
Right.
Glad we were able to get in there.
That's a rarity right there.
I know.
Are you guys on? Are we on the air?
We are live on the air.
We are live.
But it's just us chilling.
Live.
But let's tell everybody who the man is. This is D-Money. He's the first guy I saw consistently produce stable shatter of a high quality.
Yeah, definitely.
Period.
When I came here to Colorado, I definitely saw the concentrate game being stepped up big time when I first met D. So, and we pretty much go to you with all of the advice when we need it because we know you're the cutting edge guy out there right now.
Oh, cutting edge. You got to stay on the cutting edge, or you'll become lost.
Well, yeah, and you've seen how this industry's. I mean, it's getting pulled apart quickly as far as like people kind of trying to, put restrictions on it, or obviously because of the way it's made, it's always under a lot of fire. What's going on around here? There's a lot of activity.
I know I'm producing the show, Adam.
Sorry. But yeah, have
Under
you?
fire, is that just a bad pun there?
What was that?
Under fire.
Under fire, yes. Always bad puns. You know me. I'm the pun master. That's my thing. But yeah, and now as we go through into the new regulations that they're trying to impose on all these things, they really definitely are. Like we saw this morning on the news, they were like trying to again compare it to crack. Like showing the torch and saying the word crack at least 6 times on a radio and TV show. You're like, geez, they're really trying to vilify it, huh?
Media sensationalism is nothing new, but they've just got a new target.
Yeah. No, and it's classic too because cannabis now, because it's coming out with so many positive spins that it must kill them every time they hear like, yo, now it's good for
kids. Oh, they're clawing.
Yeah.
They're like, go back to the torches, For
sure. Because at the end of the day, it's like it is an easy target if you're looking at it from the outside. You're like, look at these kids, and this can't be good. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's more like a harm reduction is the way I look at it. If you smoke high quality oil or high quality cannabis, you'll obviously need a lot less of it, and then you will be healthier in the long run. Doesn't that seem to be kind of like the norm?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody that knows my story or how I got to where I'm at knows that it started with doctors trying to poison me with morphine and Dilaudid, and I know at one point I was on 13 different prescriptions and they're telling me I wasn't going to get any better. They just keep giving me more. And so I started smoking a lot of marijuana, using a lot of cannabis-based products, eating, I eat over 1,000 milligrams a day, and I was doing all these things. And the one thing that allowed me really to bridge the gap away from narcotic use every day and the morphine every morning was dabs. There was nothing strong enough until I realized the power of basically never-ending dabs, like not having to worry about running out and just having that high of concentration of medicine at one time.
That's kind of similar to the story
smoke 3 joints, take 2 dabs, and be ready to go.
That's kind of
much
similar.
easier situation.
That's kind of similar to Bo's story too. You know, he came out here, and when he couldn't, you know, got some oil, it helped him with his condition, and when he couldn't anymore, you know, he was like, I need this, you know, and it's crazy how powerful that is.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I've known D for a while, and I can see, like, you know, I know when you you know, you can tell when people need something and when they're just like out partying or doing whatever. And I mean, I've watched, and it was kind of interesting too, because I'd have to say, like, even though I'd tried dabs before, pretty much with D, I think was the time where it kind of the penny dropped. You know what I mean? Because I was with you, and you were always smoking dabs, and I wasn't really still on that tip yet. I was kind of like, you know, I was like, yeah. And then I noticed when like there was no dabs, D was a different guy. He was like, "Where's the dab? We need some dabs. Got to get some dabs." I was like, "Wait a minute. Okay, these things are definitely, you know, are working for you, obviously." And at the end of the day, I'd say, like, you know, just by watching the evolution, because I'd say, like, you know, it was a little sappier back then. It wasn't quite shattery. We were working with very, you know, simple, rudimentary stuff. And now it's like amazing, because I obviously not as in it as you are every day, and it's like it is just like day and night evolving to the point where everybody seems to be on the same. Now everybody wants to de-wax, you know, which is obviously something that you're passionate
huge
about.
proponent of. Yeah. Hey, we're gonna give Jeremy a call back. Get him back on the line. You have him lined up, Chris? Cool.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on, bud? So you're on the line, obviously, with the Adam Dunn Show. We have D Money out here on the line with us as well. D, you know Jeremy. Jeremy, you know D. Everybody's friends.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
So we're kind of we're gonna bring oil from past to present. I think that's Jeremy was talking to us a lot. We were talking about our first dabs. D, first of all, when was the first time you did a dab?
Well, my first dabs. It was funny that Adam just said that things were a lot sappier back then. But my first dabs were, I think you talked about it earlier, was I knew an old timer that had been making it for 20 years, and he used to bring me, like, every time he'd come and see me, he'd bring me like 3 folded joint papers that you had to very carefully unwrap. And there was even a couple times where I couldn't even get them unwrapped, and I'd end up just rolling the joint paper up inside of a blunt so I could smoke it. But I didn't know what, you know, there was no such thing as dabs. It was, what we did was we made hash oil, and then realistically, like the shop that Joel Halen and Worm and all those dudes came up with their first inventions, you know, we used to just go kick it at that shop because that was the weed, you know, the glass blowers. And we would go, and every time we'd go, they'd just make fresh hot knives out of glass, and we'd be trying the newest oil and doing, you know, what is now called dabs, but we'd be putting work in on those little glass hot knives. And so I really couldn't recall, like, those were all the old dabs. And then the vapor swing came out, and I still seen a lot of, like, waste with that. The first time I really recognized it as something that was changing, and I said, I have to have a dab rig, was with Dank Decals one year in Aspen. They had, I think it was Daniel Desai's first little invention here in Denver. It was the Crucible, I think it was called.
The Crucible, I remember that thing.
Actual cup with instead of just a vapor swing on someone else's bong, it was an actual rig that was, you know, they had that nail in it. I was like, damn, this changed everything. This is specifically for oil. And so that was the first. I mean, I camped out in the hotel in Aspen with Dank Decals for one weekend with Sheldon and Jason. I mean, I'm talking 5 or 6 years ago. And that was the first time, like, the new phenomenon of dabs was realized. And since then, I mean, look at the industry that we've created in just the auxiliary business of rig making, you know.
Well, how about the
Glass
revitalization?
blowers.
The revitalization of the glass industry is really what it is.
Yeah.
It's probably made so many glass blowers like come back from basically at the edge of bankruptcy almost, because everybody was just hurting for a little while there, and then all of a sudden this thing just renaissance, of glass.
But there's a weird two-way street there, because from when D was telling, his early exposure, and Jeremy was telling his early exposure, both of them mentioned getting into it from glass blowers to start with. So it's almost like they brought it to the table.
Oh yeah, no, they made it themselves, of course, but it was.
I would love to tell a little bit more on that, how the vapor swing kind of came about, because
please,
that's an
fire.
interesting story.
Yeah, we got time.
So we all saw the Hashmaster ones, and they were calling them tie curves on Toke City. And like I said, they were just down stems that he had bent, and they had wrapped tie swings on them. He was making them custom for people. And then he had put how to make them on the internet. He's like, if you want one, here's how I make it. Make your own. Here's what you need. And it was, people were out there making their own, and he had this long waiting list. And it was like 2 years long for getting a rig from him. And so I contacted him a number of times. He never made me one, never even wrote back to me. And so I decided, I'm never going to get one of these things, or I'm just going to have to wait until somebody brings one. And that's basically what happened. The first place that Dan worked at was called Kind Meds. And after he left, a new guy came in there, and his name was Joel. And I remember going into Kind Meds and telling Dan about the swing and everything, and they had never heard of it. And I told Joel the same thing, and he was all interested in it. And one day I got a phone call from him, and he said, hey, remember that thing you told me about? Somebody's here, and they have one. And I immediately left my house. I drove directly to Kind Meds, and they had set up upstairs what I believe was the first dab bar ever anywhere in California, or
probably
that I know of.
Really.
The U.S. Well, because I know they have them in Canada.
They dab bars in Canada. Sorry.
Yeah. Canada, as far as I know, I think Canada was really, really the early start
Just
of
because
this.
they love
the Butter
hash
King
too
was
up there,
the first guy to make wax, as far as I know, and there's a lot of history there too. So anyway, and we had taken these swing ideas from the Canadian guys that we had seen on the internet, and this guy showed up. He was calling he didn't have a name for it actually at the time, and it was a little bell, and it eventually became the skillet. Dave Warden at Dan's shop said it looked like like the oil was roasting on a skillet, and that's how they named the skillet. And that became Dan's thing. He actually partnered up with the guy that was making them. His name was Cade. And that's how the vapor swing kind of came about, because they had a fight. And then Dan went off on his own and made his own one with my old friend Jeff from the Weed. But my first dab was down in Kind Meds. I went down, and Cade was there with one of these little bells, and they just connected it up to a regular tube. And, it was a ground glass fitting. It was the first ones that I had seen. They were just clear, with a swing kind of wrapped on there, and we did our dabs, and it was good.
We did our dabs,
and it was good. That was biblical. What year was this?
Gosh, that was slightly before 2009, so maybe 2008.
2008, cool. Yeah,
somewhere around there.
So back then, it seems like we all did our first dabs roughly around in the same era. And so I know that like you guys are some of the first guys that when we would run into each other at trade shows, we were the only guys who were going to go take a couple dabs. No one else really knew what that was. No one else had oil.
I brought the swing over to Amsterdam. I went to Cannabis Cup every year at that point, and I had a frustration with my first experience going there. It's like I took it very seriously, and I bought my judge's pass for the Cannabis Cup, and I fought all the entries, and I was extremely disappointed when I felt like it was not an authentic vote. And, there were so many problems that I saw with the scene, but there were so many things that I loved about it. It was definitely the biggest celebration for cannabis and the best, as far as I was concerned. So, I went every year, but I maintained this frustration. Everybody that I would know that would come and I would meet would have similar experiences, and they, hate Amsterdam and talk all this garbage about the weed. And, I knew that there was nothing like what we were doing there. So when my friend came to me, he's like, hey, let's take the swing over and we'll give people hits off the... So we didn't call it dabs then either.
Yeah, it was just oil
We'll give
hits.
people, hits off the swing. And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. That's for sure a good business plan because, nobody's experienced what we've all experienced. And that's what they're there looking for.
No.
They're coming to that place because they're like, I want something I've never experienced.
That's totally true. And I got to say, from our perspective, we saw Incredible was there. We won second place and you won first place. And I hooked up with you afterwards and asked you, how'd you beat us, bud? And you told me, well, you got to just get them higher than they've ever gotten before. And I was like, well, how do you do that? We tried so hard. And you said, well, did you try oil? And I said, no. And then from then, that became a part of our steady cup and trade show repertoire. And that's,
Personally, I believe that's what popularized dabbing.
What's that?
You guys having dab booths at these Cannabis Cup trade shows. And dabbing people out.
That's where a lot of people go. Well, and I mean, like, it's a lot of people, the glass blowers in Colorado, too, kind of
not just you, but all the dab booths.
For sure. But yeah, I think to a large degree, though, the Colorado scene, because then at the same time, because this was like 2010 was when we did our first cup with oil. And I think that was the first cup where people really were bringing any oil in. It was the first cup in Denver for sure, so it doesn't matter. But I think as people got more into it in that cup, it kind of showed it to a lot of people in Colorado. Because we always have like our first dab ratio. At every cup we're giving out, I don't know, thousands of dabs.
Oh yeah,
so
exactly.
We always ask, is this your first dab? And it's always a steady increasing curve, despite whatever negative coverage on the news, despite whatever harsh criticisms. People want to try it. They seem to try, and that's just like classic, like the study that just came out about Colorado, where like everyone's dogging legalization, and it doesn't really. Sorry, Adam's passing me a note here. everyone's dogging legalization, but still, it's like 54% approval, which is what it was when it passed.
Yeah, and it's
when you talk about legalization, and you end up getting stuck in this world of policy, though, right? Like it's all how they manage it. It's all how the laws they implement and the rules. And we were talking before. We have D-Money on the line, and I gotta segue into this because this is something that came to our attention yesterday, and it's really true. And Jeremy, I do want to get your opinion. We tried to get Addison on. He's in a meeting, so we're gonna follow up with him next week. But they're trying to pass these rules that you have to test edibles for potency, right? And many people make their edibles obviously with oil, and so you have to test the oil, and then you have to test the edible, and you could see how when you test an edible, depending on how you mix your batch, there could theoretically be some inconsistency. But I just want to ask you, Jeremy, off the top of your head, would you imagine that one part of a slab would have a different content than another part of a slab for any real reason?
It's absolutely true, I would say. I know for sure the labs can't reproduce tests. Like if they test something and then to get the exact same test again, it's extremely unlikely.
Now, do you think
that's due to something?
Do you think
either it's variation in the testing or it's variation in the product?
That's
right?
the question. So what is it? D-Money, you still with us, bud?
Yes, sir.
All right, holler at us and kind of like fill us in on where this is at with you.
With testing
and what you found and the sort of variance you found. Because I was thinking about it, and I just want to say this. I could imagine, right, that depending on the thickness and size of a slab, that in a vacuum purging process, some stuff might get pulled more towards the outside, but it would be slight. It wouldn't be drastic. It would be a couple percent here or there. And margin of error is margin of error. But what have you seen in testing?
But, I mean, with all due respect to every testing laboratory and there's theories as to why I am fucking up, I don't need evidences to me doing a good or bad job. I know the job I'm doing. What I fucking don't know is anything that the labs are saying. don't know that basically, I was thinking on the drive to work this morning, trying to come up with an appropriate analogy that people might be able to understand a little better. And the best I could come up with was an analogy to 3-2 by volume beer, and the fact that 7-Eleven gets to sell beer. And there's a process that they go through that allows them to test for that amount. You can't sell Jose Cuervo in your 7-Eleven, but you can sell that low, shitty volume beer or whatever the hell that is. So let's just pretend by some happenstance that there's a standard out there that says if your beer is over a certain amount, you can't have it in the shelf, which we all know is true. Okay, so let's go a step further and say, let's say you are making stuff for that shelf and it goes over. You don't just get to sell it in the liquor store. You have to throw it away. So I don't care if it's a $30,000 batch of beer. It's not appropriate for the shelf because it's not the 3-2 level. And that's all very standard procedure. But now what if you told me that the labs that tested the alcohol were going to test it anywhere from fucking drinking water to Everclear?
The same 3-2
and you were
beer.
just going to have to, you were under the gun of whatever lab was tested, whatever lab was being used. Like, I'm not saying that.
So let's explain.
Is incorrect. I'm not saying that Can Labs is incorrect. I'm not saying that any lab is incorrect. I'm fucking saying, just like religion, there's only one right answer. Everybody else is wrong.
Right.
So, in the truth of it is, I don't give a shit which one of them it is. I hope it's Addison. Like this, it all started because I was trying to bring my homie's company to the table for our testing needs, and it backfired in my face right now because I'm having a hard time. Which, thank God for Addison and their wonderful customer service. I had a meeting with their representative yesterday, and they went into detail about an hour long about all the things that they're doing, and we're going through and they're checking, and they've already pulled the samples to retest them. But the truth of the matter is, I've been making BHO for about 10 years. I didn't make it to start smoking it. I made it because water hash chews your tongue up in hard candy. So I made it because I needed it in my candies. And from there, we developed ways of smoking it that were more practical. So now we're getting to the point where we're testing it for all these things because we're smoking it. I don't give a shit about any of that because my original use was for candy. Homogenization has been on my radar for 8 years. So do I feel that there's a possibility that my hash, in giving 2 samples, that I gave samples away that are 30, 40% away from each other out of the same batch? It's fucking impossible. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I know that my procedures, when I decarb, I do it completely and thoroughly. Not only do I mix it up, I watch the bubbles happen, and as soon as the decarb chain stops and the CO2 molecules are done being produced, I stop it. That agitation enough is a full homogenization through our oil. When we get to a point in science where everybody is on the same page and they know what book they're reading, everyone will be able to use tests comparatively. Now, the only thing we can hope for is that you can use tests internally, comparatively, within their own lab. Like I can use lab A. I can't compare lab A to lab B, but I can compare lab A to lab A to lab A to lab A.
Do you feel that's
and
the case,
the problem
though?
I'm running into is I can't even compare that number right now.
Right.
Because like Jeremy was saying, they're never duplicating it. And they're asking me, the state is asking me to write recipes that come within, literally, they have no tolerance. If you're over 100 milligrams, they want you to scrap that batch.
Yeah,
and if I'm basing my science and my recipe on these lab results, which are state-certified labs, how in the hell am I supposed to know which one's right when one person's telling me that the oil is 49% oil and somebody else is telling me it's 79% oil? As soon as I make that recipe, I'm out of whack. So, I mean, the realistic answer is we're having to look at dropping the milligrams in our bars all the way down to 70 or 60 or 70 milligrams, because that way, if the test results are off by 40%, off by 30%, it still puts us underneath the 100 milligram level that would have the state jump in and start making us destroy bars or recall. So it's the insanity is in, instead of the edible companies being taken to task, it should be the state jumping down the laboratory back
absolutely.
saying, you guys got to get all on the same page.
I mean, there's a guy who goes around to all the dispensaries, and his job is to calibrate the scales, right? That's a guy. Everyone has the sticker on their scale that says they're
Department
calibrated.
of Agriculture function,
And no one is really doing that for the labs. There's no, from what I understand.
I think they're trying to build towards that, but they're implementing procedures like starting May 1st, starting tomorrow. All of the edible bars have to be tested,
right?
And I know that,
but no one's testing the
last
labs.
week, the state was testing the labs.
Yeah,
but that's like saying starting May 1st, all of the weed has to be weighed. But you can't do that until someone goes around and calibrates all the scales before you start. No one's gone around and calibrated all these labs. They're independent. They don't have the same technology. They don't have the same processes. For example, and I'm not an expert in this stuff. That's why I was hoping to get Addison. I hope we can get him on next week. I know that you can have an high HPLC, which is high pressure liquid chromatography. That's the mobile one. And that's one way of testing it, and it seems to get a certain set of results. And the precision is not that high just because of the science involved.
Plus it's moving around all the time.
Well, yeah, how precise is that instrument, you know? Yeah. Then you have gas chromatography, which is they like burn it and analyze or something the gas that comes off there. They run a gas. I wish we had Addison, but that one's pretty precise, but it's not detailed. You know, it gets you like a general picture. Then there's gas chromatography with mass spectrometry, the GCMS. Mm-hmm. And that is pretty precise in comparing two things.
But expensive.
Extremely expensive. And I don't know who's running what technology. But the GCMS would be sort of like a base requirement. Then, you know, so you have this thing, and it's comparing what you give it to a standard, a sample that it knows as like, this is pure THC or this is pure CBD.
The funny part about all of this is that we're just trying to like figure out the most benign plant in the world.
Yeah, the one that like you really don't need to test it. But if you want to go,
the one thing we don't need to be wasting all this time and energy on. But anyway,
so then when you go to like,
well, the truth is, it's not. I mean, when you look into, like I said the other day in my Facebook post, now I could give a shit less about terpene profiles or residual solvent testing. One of the reasons I don't give a shit about residual solvent testing is because I can assure you that sappy oil, the atom that you're talking about that we started with, that was probably some of the cleanest oil that we ever smoked, because it was, back in the day, I didn't have fancy equipment. I literally learned how to do this on a shoestring budget, open blasting in a field and using heat to purge. And I would purge past the point of butter, releasing the volatiles. And luckily, I always worked with such dope fucking strains like Tange and the Flow and all these things that were so fragrant that I could push them past the point where I'm releasing all those volatiles and getting a sappier product that was stable forever. I didn't ever have to worry about my nucleation or my buttering. Yep. We always had that nice, stable sap, and that was cleaner than anything that you try and put it in the oven at 90 degrees and purge for days and get that shatter, because there's simply no way for that butane to stay trapped in there when you're heating it up to 150 degrees. So that sap and all that stuff we were smoking then, just like the homogenization, I know that it was already on point then because I was using it as an ingredient before we ever started smoking. So
right, you needed to have a homogeneous product.
What's that?
You needed to have a homogeneous product for it to work as an ingredient, and that was like part of what was going on. Hey, so I just
and it was part of saving my own life, so that's why it was so it was so important, and that's why it means a big thing now. That I don't think, like Adam was saying, this is the most benign product or plant on the planet. The problem is we're giving people bad experiences and turning them off from what is the safest substance known for therapeutic use on the fucking face of Earth. So what I'm asking is, I don't care, like I said, who's right and who's wrong. I just want to know that when I tell somebody what they're taking, that they're able to repeat that result by saying, I know that I can eat a 20 milligram edible and get this effect. So it shouldn't be what kind of edible you use. It should be the results on the front of the package are indicative of what is inside of the package, and that's simply not the case. And I'm yearning for the day when we get there, but the truth of the matter is, I don't believe in, the bullshit of shooting your wife or jumping out of a building. But the truth is, we all know the guy that's ate too much edibles and just doesn't want to get off the couch or makes him feel uncomfortable. And it might be funny for us to laugh at, but psychologically, that person is going to be turned off from using edibles. And what if they need it as medicine in their life in the future? We've created a situation where they're afraid to eat edibles because some dumbass gave them a fucking fireberry for their first experience, and it's 300 milligrams.
Absolutely. And we do got to kind of move on because we want to move on to our history of Chem Dog discussion here. But guys, this is obviously an extensive discussion.
Well, we need to
could
get
talk
Addison
about for
back
hours.
anyway. Because
Yeah, and we got to bring it because you're right. Where we're at right now is it's pretty much irresponsible to mandate to even put any number on there until there's some consistency in those numbers.
it's a classic example where you don't have the actual test, but you're gonna enforce it. So
Yeah, it's
kind of
like
like the driving thing too, when they were just like in that process and they don't really have a number and they're putting 5 nanograms and it's like doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
It's
even on
almost
the consumer, even forget the law level, even on the consumer level, it's like going to like an ancient Roman market before they standardized weight and shit. Like, oh, I'm buying 3 bushels while I'm selling 16 whatevers.
Yeah, and then I'm hoping that they're exact to the. I want to.
It's insane. So I definitely want to bring this back next week. We're gonna pay some bills.
I'll come back and talk with Addison.
Yeah. Let's get Addison on. Let's get D on. Jeremy, Isaac hit me up. We missed Isaac, so we're gonna let's do an all oil show next week. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, whatever. I'm always game.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna
love what you guys do.
Oh, we love what you guys do. D, thanks for calling in. Thanks for talking with us. Jeremy, thanks for being on the line, man.
For sure.
All right, take it easy,
You guys have a good rest of the show.
Thanks, guys.
My pleasure. Have fun.
All right. Bye.
All right,
So we'll bring that back. Let's do some shout-outs real quick. Way to Grow, once again, Colorado's top grow supplier. And a little birdie told me that this Dabs conversation might be relevant with Way to Grow somehow.
Well, I heard that they might be getting into the game soon, so we'll see.
Not producing oil, but being your
producing
supplier for your extraction technology. Is that
Which
correct?
is that's around the corner. We got new ovens coming in, precision extraction technologies. I was repping them at the Cannabis Cup. I am repping them. Pet USA.
There you go.
There you go.
So
big shout out to Pet USA.
Big shout.
Purge Game Proper out here, right? Purge Game Proper?
Purge Game Proper.
4 models. It'll be 4 models, all different sizes. So if you're in this industry and you're here in Colorado, then get ready to start spending more money at Way to Grow.
And Way to Grow does have those 6 stores. Check them out, waytogrow.net, and that's got all the locations, contact info, delivery, shipping, all that good stuff. We also got a shout out Incredibles, talking about the edibles game. Do you see how much D cared? Like, this wasn't just like, oh, dude, this might fuck up my money, or, oh, dude, like, I'm trying to be the best. This is a dude who cares about the quality of his product beyond what any other commercial product could be. That's Incredibles. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't get a better endorsement than that.
No, for sure. And I mean, they're pushing the consistency to ridiculous levels, but I mean, they've always delivered with every single product that they ever put out there. And I think the main thing is getting one standardization would make sense for everybody. And if you have to assign a certain person to a certain person, I think the testing would be held responsible more than almost in the end of the day than the production, because the production just has to follow what they say.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
How it goes.
Exactly.
It has to go in a certain order. So
And
hopefully
so-
that'll get figured out. And maybe next week I don't know. Now we can't do. We'll have Addison and we'll
Yeah.
get the head to head.
Yeah.
And we'll make it work.
And big ups, because for carrying that much. That's a real quality product and real experienced technician. We got to shout out Build a Soil, new sponsor.
New sponsor. I need a drum roll, but I don't have it set up. Anyway.
Have you looked through the site?
Yeah, no, they're wicked stuff.
It's really cool. Look through the site. They got all sorts of just like organic growing resources if you want to learn about organics. On that note, check out my article in High Times, currently on the stands, if you want to learn some basic shit. But that's endorsed by Build a Soil, and he's been running my shit on the site as well.
Nice.
We learned from the same dudes, and the dudes who taught us consult on everything they stock on the site. It's the highest quality products.
And they're in their front range or something? Where are they at?
They're over on the Western Slope, but
the
they
Western
ship at least nationwide, I think worldwide. And it's really good information. And then all the obscure, like when you're doing organics, there's like, where am I going to get freeze-dried aloe vera powder?
Yeah.
Just all the great weird stuff. Also, let's big up Boulder Wellness.
Oh, yeah.
I hope Nick is listening. I told him to put it on in the store.
It's funny because every time I ask him if he's listened to the show, he's like, yeah, I don't. He gives me that like.
Nope. He doesn't know that we're shouting him out.
Every single week.
Do you want to stop shouting him out?
No, of course not.
No, of course not, because he's that cool.
No, and it's worth going up there. Like I said, I have people driving up from here every single week because it's worth that extra drive. organically grown, and these guys know their stuff. They got some great strains on the menu, of course, too. They've won with the Jilly Bean number 13, which was...
Dude, that Jilly...
That one's bomb. Yeah, so they've got that one in stock. They've got a bunch of my stuff in there.
Really, really just top notch. And talk about people who care about their product.
For sure. Same
similar.
deal.
Family
and
business.
and Nick is off to Jamaica, I think, for a week. His first time ever out of the country. So we'll give him a big be careful out there. You know?
It's not all Rasta love, buddy.
No, he's going with good peeps there, so he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Good. I'm glad he's
But
being
yeah,
taken
big.
care of.
You know, it's always good when you got your first experience out of the country into Jamaica. It's a pretty good
You're
one.
just like, this is he's going to leave. He's not going to live in America anymore after that, I bet.
Well, we'll see. You never know. That's going to be an interesting one. So shout out to those guys, and I think they're at 5420.
You have it on your paper, buddy. Flip it to the right.
Yeah, 5420 Arapahoe. You can remember that. Come on.
I'm on top of it, and it's boulderwc.com if you want to check out their website, their menu. They have a blog that lists all their amazing wins. All right, let's keep it rolling now. We've kind of been like patiently and quietly ignoring P-Bud. I'm sorry. P-Bud's here, guys.
No worries.
And P-Bud's, we're going to continue on the history of Chem Dog.
Show his bodyguard. Show
his bodyguard over here. Look at this.
Look at it. Ooh, this guy's
menacing.
I'm rolling.
He's important, this guy over here, obviously.
So P-Bud, we did the basic discussion talking about how we tried, and I did want to tell everyone we did intend to have Joe Brand on. He said he was 90% sure, but he's having some health issues. So, P-Bud, why don't you tell everyone? And we should call G whenever you're ready if you have his number.
Yeah, and JJ too.
Yeah, and we're going to have JJ on the show. That's a surprise.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you see that? You didn't even know that. That's what all that activity was. So we're going to take the Chem story out and hopefully really flesh the whole family line out. So, P-Bud, why don't you kind of recap what we did before and bring us up to speed? Like, you know it better than me, man.
Yeah, I think we stopped after we met Chem Dog at Deer Creek in 91. Joe Brand has got some health issues, but he'll be okay.
Cool.
He just couldn't make it today.
Similarly, Bike Holly's sick. Shout out to Bike.
Yeah,
he
nice
couldn't
Bike.
make it in. Sorry.
But after we sent Chem Dog some P-Bud, I think, first when we got back to Crested Butte, and then sent him the 2 ounces of the dog, and kind of just back then, no Facebook, cell phones, all that stuff. We just kind of lost contact with him. So fast forward to 2003, I was back east.
So that's 12 years? Like over a decade?
Yeah, over a decade. I was back east. I had some health issues myself back east in Connecticut, and a buddy of mine said that he could get me this stuff called Diesel. I was like, wow, so he says it's 130 a quarter, 65 an eighth, and I was like, wow, can you get me half an eighth? So I split an eighth with him, and he left it in his car where he worked, and I opened the car, and the first thought in my mind was dog bud. I was like, that is the dog bud. So
it's sort of an unmistakable, like you know it when you smell it.
Smelling,
it's unmistakable.
Like most people, it just triggers memories to me. So I was like, that's the dog bud. So a couple of days later, whenever I talked to Joe, he was out in California, and I said, I smelled this stuff that is a dog bud. He goes, yeah, it's the Diesel. And so for the next 2 years, we were on Overgrow, trying to corroborate our story.
And just for new listeners, Overgrow was an internet message board that was sort of the hub of advanced everyone in the room's nodding. So I know this is spot on. The hub of advanced cultivation knowledge in the world. And it really, everybody was on there. It's where everyone who's big in the game today, I think, at least got some information.
And I just trolled it.
Yeah, no, some people,
I was a troll.
but no one was not there. Is what it was.
Yeah.
It's like
it was on every night.
It's like that high school
But
that
I definitely
everyone
got addicted to
graduated
it. I got
from.
addicted to it quick, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I was all, no.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really get bothered going and finding a new home because I wasn't that deep into it.
Yeah, we went to
Trolls don't need
IC
homes.
Mag, I think is where we went.
A lot of people went to IC Mag. Some people went to Toke City. And it really was a hub of the community before it became a physical thing. That virtual community sort of set the culture of what we,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, have now to a large degree.
Oh yeah.
So sorry to interject.
No worries. Good education for people. So we were, Joe mostly was just trying to tell the story. We heard that it was coming out of Massachusetts, online, and we're like,
This was the diesel bud.
The diesel. It's got to be the Chem Dog. It's got to be related to what we sent Chem Dog back in 91. So 2 years of probably people going, bullshit, bullshit, no way. And finally it got back to a friend of Greg's, and we got in touch again. And where Joe was out in Napa, and I just moved out there, and Chem Dog sent us 4. He's like, I'll send you 4 of the original seeds.
And that's 4 of 13 that was in it?
4 of the 13.
Yeah.
So he would have 2 left, which I thought was just very, very generous of him.
Definitely. Wait, so how'd you? First of all, I want to know how you guys. Well, let's recap what happened to the other. So it's 4 to
4
7.
seeds.
So what happened to the other 7?
4. We labeled 1 through 4, and 4 was the keeper.
Right. Can you describe 1, 2, and 3?
Smell just wasn't there. The fuely smell wasn't there, from what I remember. I think it's still around out there. Joe would know a lot more than me about that, but I think 1, 2, and 3 people still have them. But 4 by far was, we just noticed that it just produced really well and just spit out the resin. So we kept that one, and then just pretty much gave it to, anyone who wanted it was welcome to have it. So I think that's why the Chem 4s, a lot of people have that one more than the 91 and the D. And
Definitely
and
more
those.
out there, yeah. So, can you, I guess because we, you know what? Is it time? Can we call Chem?
No, we have a call in.
Oh, we have a call waiting. Oh, cool.
Oh.
JJ said 1 o'clock, I think. He told me 1.
Oh, it's 1:12. 1 o'clock his time or our time?
1 o'clock our time.
Yeah, we can call him now. Do you have JJ's number there? Cool. So why don't you introduce JJ, P-Bud? Because you're like a regular now.
Hello.
JJ, it's
What's
P-Bud.
up?
You're on the Adam Dunn Show.
Yo, JJ, how's it going? It's Adam here.
What's going on, JJ?
Good, good. What's up? What's up, Adam?
Hey, long time. How you been?
Good.
Sweet. So yeah, we're sitting in the studio, and we're kind of going over a little history lesson here. So
we've been talking to P-Bud, and he brought us up to date with when him and Joe Brand got back in touch with Chem Dog. We were kind of getting to that part, and last week, or at a previous segment, we had talked to AJ and kind of gotten the history of the Sour D and that whole lineage, and we kind of want to talk about your perspective on the whole story, the strains that you were involved in, and where you fit in the puzzle.
Yeah, I heard the show last week. It was really good.
Thanks, man.
You guys got it pretty much on the money. I spoke to my friend from Staten Island, who was the original guy that contacted Chem Dog, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this guy Adam Dunn." So he heard about it. And,
oh, nice. That's really cool. That's sweet. Well, shouts to him. Definitely send our respects to him when you speak to him.
Yeah, I like to try to get him. I told him you should try to get your take on it. And well, basically, I'll just tell you from the beginning. For me, it started in Central Park back in 1992. I was hanging out there, smoking, enjoying, the day. I was hanging out with this guy, and along walked up this guy. He was like, "Yeah, you guys want to buy some bud?" And he whipped out, 3 or 4 quarters of this homegrown stuff that he had grown himself. And I was really excited to meet him. And, that kind of bud wasn't really around on a regular basis back in the day. So when you're able to, find a good solid connect or whatever, you have to take advantage of it. So
We
I
almost
pretty
have
much
to-
told them, listen, dude, whatever you have, I'll take, you know what I mean? And so, he started growing some strains that he had got off Grateful Dead tour down at RFK Stadium. He called it was the RFK Skunk that he was selling. It was Skunk 1, Skunk 2, and Skunk 3. And, through this whole time, this is when, Chem Dog, he already had hooked up with these guys through the Dead show. And so my friend went to a fish show right here in the city at Roseland, I believe. And he was just in the audience there and smoking away, and standing right next to him was Chem Dog. And they, started sharing their buds, showing their buds. And, as growers do back in the day, they're, oh, what are you growing? And, everyone was, interested in what everybody else was doing. So, my friend was really impressed by, the Chem Dog. And so he's like, yeah, I want to, like to trade you for this. And so he drove up to Massachusetts and got the Super Skunk and the original Chem Dog 91, and he brought it back down to the city.
Nice.
That's an awesome piece of history. That's
And
just
then
like
the
hitting me in
city
heart.
was never the change.
No, that's
never ever
changed New York history. So
For
that's
sure.
what led to the Sour D, right?
Yeah, well, really what had happened was, I had met AJ. I started meeting my friend down at Wetland, and we started hanging out. And that's where I had met AJ, and he just had a nose for the diesel because, he just sniffed us out. It was like, I didn't even know this guy. He comes up to me, and he's, hey, you guys got bud? And, he's talking, and, before you know it, we were all friends. And so, AJ was like, yeah, I'd like to get some cuttings of that diesel you guys got. And my friend's like, no way, man, you're never going to get a cutting, you know what I mean? It was back then, it was really tight. Everyone held on to the genetics and was very tight-lipped about things, and there was no way he was going to give it up. So what wound up happening was these guys bought a bag from him and found some seeds and grew them out and found the sour diesel. And, a lot of people ask me, well, what do you think the sour diesel is? And a lot of people say, oh, well, it's Mass Super Skunk times the 91. But I have to disagree because I've grown out all the strains that I think that are involved. And to me, the Mass Super Skunk, the structure is kind of medium size. It doesn't have that really sativa stretch to it. It had a thick stem, like a
Kind of had a spirally bud. Did it have like a real spiral, thick bud at the top?
No, yeah, I mean the buds were more thicker.
Yeah, thicker. And at the very end, they kind of puff out at the very end, like on the sides, heavily, more than the top.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it did not have that the sativa stretch that the sour diesel has. And if anyone that grows a 91, it kind of does have a little bit of that stretch. It has that OG structure where the buds, that the nodes are far spaced apart and everything, and it can stretch a little bit more than your average Chem Dog, but to me it didn't have that real sativa stretch that sativa vigor that sour diesel has, and everyone knows about it, and it's like, where did that come from? Well, in my opinion, my friend was growing, he had that RFK Skunk, and they did a little breeding into some. I think he had the super. Yeah, he went to Amsterdam, bought Northern Lights seeds, brought them back, crossed them into the Super Skunk, and then he created the underdog with that. Was a Super Skunk NL times the 91 was the underdog, and that was a planned breeding. But the sour diesel was definitely an accident. I believe that the DNL, which is it's
Day Record
Skunk
Northern Lights, yeah?
It's Skunk times Northern Lights Hawaiian, and that has the same exact growth structure as a sour diesel. Now, it's not as strong, it's a different kind of a plant, but structure-wise, it has that same exact growth pattern that the sour diesel has, where it's that sativa stretch, and it just, and to me, that's where that comes from. You know, I could be wrong, but, you know, after growing, you know, most of these strains, that's what I believe it was, and it was definitely an accident. That was not planned, and if it was planned, there would be more seeds of it available. So it was like these cats bought a bag of Chem Dog, found seeds in it, and grew them out, and found the sour diesel, and that's how I think that went down.
Yeah, that's pretty much what AJ was saying. It was just definitely it was a golden ticket right there, you know. Yeah. Well, that's, you know, and that is what I try to tell people as a guy who has been in the seed industry for years. It's kind of like the fact that people always want that. They like come in the shop and you know, obviously didn't hear about it until like after, you know, like the 2000s, you know, 2005 or something. Even though I knew about it when Keith came to my shop in '93. Never got to smoke any of it because he just talked about it the whole time. That's all I ever heard about. So I was like, sour, you know, and you know Keith, of course. So it was always, you got to smoke the sour, you know. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And I finally got a chance to get it myself in like '99, I guess it was, and grow it out myself and start to experience it. And then it was like, okay, now I understand, you know. But it's definitely one of those strains that it's very hard to replicate. It's very hermaphroditic, kind of.
Well, that makes, obviously was. So, I mean, JJ, it sounds like you're saying a Hermie is what made it happen to start with.
Yeah,
so that totally confirms that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that DNL plant had the lower branches, and it had the tendency, if you didn't cut those lower branches off, it didn't get enough light, they would Hermie. So.
Oh, we got a call coming in. Oh yeah, this is a caller we want too. Petey, go accept that call.
Accept that call.
Quick, hit the green button. Do it.
No, on the thing.
Use the mouse. The mouse. Look at the. Oh, Petey, you missed it.
Man.
Caller, please call back.
Call back. We just missed it. No, don't touch that.
Don't touch
Stop
that,
touching
Petey.
anything. Just stop touching anything.
Just sit at the command station. We were about to bring another piece of the puzzle in, but okay. So JJ, take us from there.
You'll see it pop up if it
so
pops up.
what other crosses can you bring into
the
focus for us?
It disappeared.
Well, from my friend's point of view, that was pretty much his extent of his breeding. Was really the underdog, and I don't know. Like I said, the sour diesel wasn't really a planned breeding. So I mean, you know, I used to get weed from these guys, and you know, and they used to always talk about growing and this, and then they would show me the room, and then I was like, I want to get involved, but I'm on probation, and I was having some legal troubles at the time. So once my troubles, you know, passed by, these guys agreed to.
Hold up.
Oh, welcome to the
Hey.
Adam Dunn Show.
Damn. Thank you.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Hey,
Doing
what's
good.
going on? Hey, JJ, you still with us?
I'm a friend of G's. He told me to call in.
Oh, cool. I think we just lost JJ though. It looks like.
Yeah, well, we can.
Petey, you got to conference them. Oh no.
Never mind. We'll wait till it comes. We'll get it. We'll get it back. We'll get him back. So
Yeah.
Fill us in a little bit. So we'll get.
You've been listening in, right?
Yeah, I have been.
All right, cool. So pick up and hop in.
Well, I had always thought that it was always to my knowledge that G had sold a bag of SS91 and that made it down to the city, and that was the thing. I never heard this part, that they had it going on. But I do remember getting the SS from G's buddy. It was
The SS
pretty
being
exciting when it came up.
When you're saying
we called
the
it the SS Super Skunk.
That's the Massachusetts Super Skunk, yeah? What we call
Right.
it now, yeah.
Massachusetts Super Skunk.
True. And what year was that? What year was that again?
That would have been pretty close to, I would say, like 91, 92, somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to go down to the city, check out like the Skinanks with my boy, bring him the Super Skunk, bring him some 91.
So this is kind of crazy for me. I'm just sitting here because I'm realizing I was like, when I was 14 years old, dude, I was going to the wetlands for ska shows, and that was like right at that time, and it's pretty insane to me that I could have been in the room for some of these situations.
Is this Adam?
No, this is Mitch, which is what's fucking really crazy.
No, I was a bit older. I was in Amsterdam at that point.
Did I meet you at a Skinank show or
Dude,
I was like Lee Scratch Perry show around that time period backstage?
I went to all those shows. I was a little kid though. I went to all those shows and I walked back because I was a kid. They kind of like, it was cool that I was this kid who was into ska, and I went backstage at a lot of them for ages. But I don't know. Like, I didn't smoke weed at the time, really. My friends did. I don't know, man. It's just crazy to me. I'm sitting here hearing these stories and been like, man, I like everything these people are talking about. I was in a lot of those rooms, man.
You probably smelled it.
Same with me.
I remember smelling
a lot
the
of
weed then.
scenes. Like I used to go out to the Sierra Nevada Reggae Fest in the early '90s, Reggae on the River, and I'd bring out some of the Super Skunk. I was always calling it Western Mass Super Skunk. I think I'm pretty much the one who told G like it's Western Mass Super Skunk.
So you coined the term, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've coined many of the terms. Like, you've heard of the Jeezel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right. Well, I told G was like, let's name it Orange Julius. And I'm like, you know what? That's G's Diesel. It's Jeezel.
Nice.
You know, this is when the so much Diesel and the whole thing was going around.
So we're calling JJ back here.
I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
This stuff is super new over here in our area.
Hey,
so
JJ,
I
of
just
course.
keep it limited.
JJ, we got you.
Yo.
Yo, welcome back on the line. So we're on the phone with another one of G's friends who's kind of bringing the picture into focus for us here.
This is the JJ with the Star Dog, right?
Yes, it is.
So why don't you bring us to the Star Dog, JJ?
That shit's epic, JJ.
Yeah, for
Big
sure.
up on that shit.
Okay. Well, basically, like I was saying, I felt that, we let a lot of strains, slip through our hands. And, here we had these beautiful Chem Dogs, Sour Diesels, all these clone-only strains. Now, they're all female, and you need a male to find a male to make seeds for a female. So, I came up with the thought was, well, I want to breed, but I want to breed for a male so I can cross and make seeds. And at least, I don't have to duplicate everything, but just as long as it comes close, something that comes close to the Chem Dog or the Sour Diesel or whatever, that's going to be a home run. So, I figured, well, here we have the Chem D. It's probably one of the strongest strains on earth that's available. What is a good strain to cross into it? That's not going to be dominant. That's going to, give it something, So I figured the Afghan 1. So I Afghan 1 into the Chem Dog, and then I back-crossed it. Then I back-crossed it 2 times, and that was the third breeding, which I called the Tray Dog. And so basically, the Tray Dog, I just took the Tray Dog and started crossing it into the Chem 4, into different strains. The white, and and that's basically what what became a Star Dog, became the White Dog, and really the foundation
the guava.
The guava, and it was really the Tray Dog is the building blocks of my seed bank.
Nice.
Right on.
Yeah, big up.
So, and like I said, here we got something. If you don't have to duplicate it, but if you even come halfway close, it's going to be a winner. So, and I'd never really got too many problems with Hermes or anything like that. I mean, I didn't really do much with the Sour Diesel. I just kind of stuck with the Chem Dog, which, in my mind, it produced Sour Diesel, it produced the OG Kush, it produced the Underdog, it produced many keeper strains, so it has a track.
It's an alpha dog. It keeps throwing out male knobs, and it will fuck everything in your room. It's a complete alpha dog of strains. The thing just keeps pounding out little male sperms. They'll pollinate everything.
And and when I was doing it, I did it to try to preserve the genetics, at least to have something that I could work with in the future if we lost the strain, because not too many people had the Chem Dog and everything back then, and people would they would lose strains. I can think of a lot of strains that friends of mine have lost, or oh yeah, we'll just let this one go, we'll get it later, and then you go to try to get it later, this guy doesn't have it, you know what I mean, and before you know it, it's gone, and you can't get it back. There's been a lot of strains that we let slip through our hands, and a lot of these strains originated from Pakistan, Afghanistan, a lot of places where you can't even go today. A lot of those strains, I believe, came from the Hippie Hash Trail. And that's where they collected those seeds. You go to those countries now, they're going to cut your head off. So, and the American government, they eradicated a lot of the, you know,
the
a lot of
areas.
the strains.
They tried,
A lot of the,
They definitely tried, that's for sure.
And the Dutch opportunists cross-pollinated a lot of the strains. And,
right.
Like a lot of
and
stuff.
a lot of these strains were indigenous to families that grew them year after year with pride of having the best hash in the region, you know. And a lot of those cycles have been broken now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's a topic we love on the show. You know, we definitely connecting back to that hash tradition and the essence of how this was, you know, something for a whole family. And you know, then it wasn't a family like mom, dad, and a kid. It was like generations, like a small village is a family.
Right,
you know?
right. And people, you know, they depended on that to feed their families. So they took great pride in having indigenous strains. And, you know, once that cycle was broken, and then you get cross-pollination, and it just turned into a big mess that we kind of have now, to where, you know, maybe somewhere somebody has something, but, you know, it's like a needle in a haystack.
For sure. But I mean, that brings us back to what everything we're talking about now, because that sort of was where cannabis in America came from, was all this old world genetics. And then we started this revolution of new world genetics, and it was this intentional and unintentional breeding sort of during this like early 90s period, basically around Dead Tour, you know, Fish Tour, Overgrow. These were the three realms that really seemed to connect a lot of people back then, and a lot of genetics moved through hands, and that's what leads us to today's 28% THC stream. Well, if the labs can be trusted.
So even back then, you know, the government, that's when they really started, you know, cracking down, because most of the weed was always imported. You know, we were never, you know, a drug-producing country, you know, until they started shutting off the borders and making droughts. So,
right, till the
you know,
90s.
when people
when
started,
the fucking drug
in
on
the early
wars.
90s, there were droughts, and that's what I believe really, you know, pushed people into growing their own stuff, because they're like, well, you know, we can't get it from Thailand, from Colombia, from Mexico, from all these exotic places where we used to get stuff, you know, not coming in anymore now, you know, and that's what, and people have passion, and that's what drove, you know, the whole thing, you know, especially here, because I think that people, especially in New York, because everything's at a premium, electric, rent, so it's like, if you're going to set up a grow, you're going to be spending a lot of money in expenses.
Yeah, to put it in comparison,
in turn, you got to be producing the best product that's going to fetch the highest prices. You know what I mean? So there was always a strive for the best and to be the best, because when you're the best, you can make your own rules and you can make your own prices or whatever, just as long as, you know, you're in the market.
That's sort of universal in New York, like the best. Of course. You can write your own ticket. If you're the best, you can write your own ticket there.
Sure.
And that's
right.
And that opportunity, you know, that opportunity in the market, and that's something with cannabis in general. That's why I always say, like, the best plant growers are cannabis growers, because a tomato farmer, if he ups his yield by 10%, what's he going to make, like $30? You up your yield by 10%, like, that's significant. That's money in the bank, and it's worth trying to find every possible way that you can do that. And that's why, you know, you're looking for someone who knows every trick. That's a cannabis grower.
Right, but also, you know, when you're breeding, also, you know, you want to, you know, for me personally, I only wanted to breed the best, have the best, you know, so like harvest, you know, finishing times, all of them were secondary to having whatever is the best for the best.
So for you, the best, is that the strongest, the best tasting, the best smelling? What is the best?
Yep.
Well, for me, it's in, you know, how high you get, how strong it is. You know what I mean? And then everything after that has a little pecking place. You know what I mean? Because I smoke to get high. I don't smoke for flavor. So whatever's the strongest for me, that's what I'm going to smoke. I mean, and that's how I set my standard. And you know, and my standard seems to be pretty high compared to a lot of other people. So, and that's how I run my business. So it's like, if it's good enough for me, it should be good enough for everybody else.
You know,
if I really like something, I mean, and not just because it's mine. You know, when it's that good, it's that good. And if you're a connoisseur and you smoke something that's that good, you're going to acknowledge it. And it doesn't matter where it came from.
Without a doubt.
And then you're going to be like, where can I get more of this? And that's why I believe this whole market.
It's also got to taste good, I think. It's got to have equal taste.
Of course, it's about a fact.
Taste and smell, I think, are the first two things that people right away get their attention. If you're coming down to like bag appeal, it's not they don't know how strong it is. They just know what it smells like.
Well, that's what gets you interested. But what makes you love it?
And I think,
appearance. It's appearance, aroma, flavor.
But I agree with
effect.
Obviously strength. But I also find like there's some things that are really strong I don't like as much if it didn't taste as good.
Right.
If it's strong, though, it's going to taste and
there were some strong, some of those chem flavors that came out that had they were really strong, but they had no fucking flavor or taste. And that's why a lot of them got pitched. All those other ones, they're just very weak in flavor.
But, it's interesting you mentioned that because that's something we talk about on the show as well, the entourage effect, how the terpenes, which is what gives it the flavor, actually, like on a physical level, control how your body works with the cannabinoids. So it actually controls the nature of your experience, or how high you get. So it's not just like, oh, I don't like it because the flavor's not there. It's literally physiologically a different high.
It's not gonna do it for you.
And it depends on how you like personally. You know what I mean? Like I like more of a sedative high, more of a couch lock high, where other people might more of a sativa. I like sativas too, but not on a regular basis. You know what I mean? So that's why. And that was the other thing. Like you showed, you'd have sour diesel, and you'd be at a party or somewhere ever, and you would show people, and they would be, "What is this? Where can I get more?" So it was just like every person that ever came into contact with it was just.
No, it had to be a golden goose because when I first got sour in New Jersey, and I know I got it from my boy who was a glass blower who was getting it in Long Island, and then later. A few years ago at a trade show, I actually met the guys he was getting it from, who were teaching him to blow glass. But when that was $85 an eighth, came in a ball jar and everything, and that was, every week that happened, and it wasn't just me. There was a fucking waiting list, and I missed it sometimes, and that.
Right, that and it was a supply and demand thing, and just like AJ said, they called it the diesel, but when you didn't get any, you were pretty sour about it because you tried to make make sure you save me a quarter of that, you know what I mean, or whatever, and then when you found out that he sold it or he ran out of it, you weren't really happy about it.
I definitely was that guy.
That person, Big Keith, you were saying he had the sour D there in Amsterdam because I met him in Amsterdam around that time period.
He brought it there.
I knew it was somebody I knew because he was smoking a G piece, if I'm correct. He was in Katsu.
Yeah.
So I right away made this connection with this guy from the States. And he also brought me to his crib and talked about this strain, talked about it, but I never got to check it out. Never got to try it.
Yeah,
and it was much later that I realized he knew a bunch of Diesel Crew people, all these 10 people, and for whatever reason did not want me to go back and be like, yo, that's what this guy in Amsterdam's got.
Yeah, no,
Keith. I thought very funny. Like, I heard about it, and then
that was 92? Was that like 92 or something like that? 91, 92?
It was 90, I think it was. I first went to Amsterdam with Chem for the Cannabis Cup was 93. But I think when I was back there and ran into Keith, it was when Fish played at, what was it, like 2 of those shows at the Paradiso, something like that. It was like 96 or something, 95.
Yeah, I think, and then what happened was
the sour came somewhere around 95, because like I said, when I first got introduced to him, it took him a little while to get going, and, he made the Underdog. And it was like, 94, 95. That sour really came out, and when they found it, because early on he wasn't really doing too much, but then he started to play around.
Oh, we got a caller on the line. Did we just drop everyone again? Can you get him back, Chris? Hey, caller, what's going on?
What's going on? This is Chem Dog.
Hey, Chem, what's going on?
There we go.
This is the reunion is being thwarted, Chem.
What's going on, guys?
Not much. We were talking to JJ and one of your other buds, putting the pieces
JJ
together.
still out there?
Yeah, JJ was just on the line until we picked up your call, man. We're going to connect you guys in a second.
And then the other guy can call back too because we don't have his number.
Yeah. Did you get that other guy's number? Can you salvage it from this thing? No, I don't have it. It's not on the sheet. He
I'm
called
sorry.
in.
The person you were trying to reach has a voicemail box that is not.
JJ, answer the phone. All right. Well, Cam, in that case, we're going to contact someone you were connected, another person from your past, from Heirloom Genetics. I've got his number on right here. But how are you doing, sir? Thanks for calling in today. Who do we,
JJ?
Is it? Do we have JJ on the line again? Hello? Do we have anyone on the line? All right, we're experiencing serious technical difficulties here at iCannabis Radio Studios today, and or the authorities or too many authorities are tapping the line, thereby destroying the circuit. Sorry, guys, I'm just kidding. Who are we calling now? Okay, well, all right, cool. We're going one at a time, and now we got to call in. So merge him. Don't dump it. Okay, that's fine. And Heirloom's not answering.
Wow.
Your call has been forwarded.
All right. Let's hang it up.
All right,
Okay,
one more time, guys.
Let's
We're
try
making
this.
happen.
These technical difficulties, please bear with us.
At least they're live. At least it's live technical difficulties. You can tell them.
Yeah, this isn't us just. It would be cool if when we did the podcast, we edited these things out, but instead we just improvise. Hey, did you see the donuts? Hemp donuts, get down. Get down.
Yo.
Kem,
Hey,
thanks for calling back. Sorry, we're having serious technical difficulties.
It's all good. It's all good.
Especially-
Sorry I called in so late. I had some other obligations I was taking care of.
Oh, no worries. We were running late actually due to technical difficulties, so it kind of all works out. So we had we're gonna okay. Now we have another guy calling in. Hello, caller.
Sorry, guys.
All right,
It's
so
me. Well, I was on earlier. I lost you.
is this
this is my boy, Mr. I, isn't it?
Yeah. Mr. I, yeah. What's up, Cam?
What's up, buddy?
Fucking
Nice.
ballbuster.
So-
yeah, no, I was on. I somehow had some technical difficulties.
No, that
with
was
my
our
own
technical
phone.
difficulty, and now we have Kem on, and hopefully we'll have JJ back in a second.
Sick.
Am I speaking with Adam? Is this Adam?
No, this is Mitch, Kem.
That was Mitch there. I'm
Okay,
here.
Mitch, cool.
Yeah, I just
So I wanted to say we were talking about strains, loss, and whatnot. We had created the Bubba Chem, and that was the bubbleberry from Sagramatis
Yeah.
that we mixed with the sister, the original sister. And actually, when I met Big Keith there, he was living right above.
Okay, so I know the
Sagramatis.
exact time period in that little tiny place. Yeah, there he wasn't doing much. There he wasn't doing much. He moved to he had a different place.
Right, but he hinted about something so epic,
Yeah.
and he knew I knew all these people, and I kept thinking. When I later left, I kept thinking, I wonder if it's like the fucking. Then I heard about this diesel and the diesel thing from New York and the Saturday, and I'm thinking, oh, there you go. That was probably the cat.
Yeah, it was. It was for sure.
And we've
we had the Bubba Chem there, which was the sister Chem times the Sagramatis Bubbleberry, and I don't know, that was floated around for a while, pretty decent, but also got lost. Done.
I feel like I've seen that around. Let me get back to you on this. Mitch talking. Let me get back to you on that because I do feel like it's not totally extinct.
Bubble Chem is
Yeah,
around.
I mean,
It's not
it's
extinct.
yeah. He says it's around, but it's not
It's
in
extinct in our
circulation.
it's extinct in our circle, but it's out there.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. We'll be in touch about
extinct
that.
to me.
It's dead to me. Yeah.
Dead to me.
So,
That's
do we have JJ on the line
The thing
again?
we talk about called GOG.
Donuts.
Donuts. Shout outs to Jay at the
out to Jay
lab
Breeze.
making the fresh donuts. Might as well. I'm gonna bring them home to my pregnant wife. Are you gonna bring them home to your family and child?
No, that's fine. You can take it. I think she can eat all of those.
I was trying to merge the
She's
shout out.
Is she ravenous now? Yeah.
No, she'll eat like a donut maybe if she eats a whole one. But
How we're talking any minute now, aren't we?
2 weeks.
Wow.
Is the due date. So technically
Congratulations.
a minute. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So I'm going to disappear for a while. It's
There will be a
honestly-
missing show at one point.
This is sort
For
of
him,
like a
not for
life
me.
honor fulfillment to talk to all you guys for me because, like I said, I grew up in northeastern New Jersey, same time period, hanging out at the wetlands as like a really little kid, like really too young to be in there. So I may have been in the room. I wasn't smoking at the time, but then when I did start smoking, I was the sucker paying $85 an eighth for that sour D. And,
Well, actually, here's a good one for the wetlands, if I can chime in on that one. That's where I actually met the guys where I got the Mass Super Skunk from, was at the wetlands.
do you remember at a fish show.
Oh, he was. Yeah, so one of them said the Roseland, but wetlands.
Oh no, I'm sorry, it was Roseland.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
correcting it.
Omit all that, what I just said. It was Roseland.
History is officially on record. Nice.
It's been corrected.
Who can remember anything? I won't testify to nothing.
Well, that's the crazy thing is like, and I do want to say, because I don't know how connected you guys are currently, if you see all the controversy that happens in the online grower circles and the whatever online community. And
I'm hearing about some recently with a strain name that we will correct after a little while. Me and Chem came on to help straighten that situation out. We'll go on.
Yeah, please definitely do that sort of thing. But those sorts of things, people are so vested in it, and then they say, oh, this person said this person said that. And people don't really take into account that everyone who said everything is recounting an event that they never thought would be, significant to a large group of people.
Exactly. And what some people need to remember is that some of it's not true at all.
Yeah.
I used to go around saying all kinds, like people would be like, where'd you get this? I'd be like, yeah, these fucking old timers grew this. I used to make up countless stories when I give it to people.
Oh, of course.
Countless.
I don't think people understand, like a lot of these West Coast kids.
A lot of bikers got a lot of credit for doing
Yeah, a lot of bikers got a lot of credit for nothing. Yeah.
It's like,
you think of the scariest people you can think of.
Yeah, this is Samoans, giant Samoan guys living in the mountains.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of crap. Swerve gets a lot of crap from people about his stuff. But I got to say, 100%, Swerve stuff is 100% legit. In fact, he got most of those things done. So they are they are legit.
They're official DOG genetics.
DOG genetics. So,
or as we like to call it now, chemnetics. All things related to chem.
So how far out? What do you consider part of the umbrella of chemnetics? Obviously, the Star Dog's in there. Chem 4, right? Then Chem B is Chem B is
an original bean,
right? And Chem B is the
Snow
sister
Dog,
Chem, which
the Snow Dog.
So how'd you get to the Snow Dog?
Okay, the Snow Dog is Western Mass Super Skunk times the Bubba Chem times Oregon Snow.
Oregon Snow, the original Oregon Snow cut.
Yeah, Oregon Snow. From, I don't want to say the person's name, but they'd say his name and then they say Snowbud, blank snow, from Oregon. So my brethren was out there somehow, made a link in the early period, this is like early 90s, came back, brought that thing, he got the Western Mass Super Skunk, got the bubble chem from me, bred it out, and what you see now is the Snow Dog is like, it's pretty close to.
Snow Dog was actually made with the Oregon male, correct? There, Mr. I
think so.
He used the Oregon.
The other things we had were all only clones.
Well, there.
I put the OG Kush, the SFV cut, as under the cut.
All right, now you're bringing up another show that we're going to segue into. That's something that's tracing the true history of OG.
That's a whole other 50 days.
But stake your claim. Let's start it early. So what's your go on record for us? What do you have?
Back in '97, back in '96, '97, I had given a cut to my boy of the '91 in Tahoe, and he gave it to. There was a couple older guys that he gave it to an old man there, and he smoked. He's like, "Damn, this is just like the." He smoked it, and then he found a seed in it. So he started the seed, and he smoked it, and he said, "Man, this reminds me of the old school OG Kush." Like what they used to talk about back in the day. So he started growing that out, and he called this cut the OG Kush, the SFV OG Kush, or it made its way to San Fernando Valley after that.
So we know the guy. We know the guy who brought it from Tahoe to San Fernando, and when we do our OG Kush show, we'll have one of his people.
So I'm wondering if that guy got it from my old man guy who started the original bean of it.
That's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to connect. But Adam has part of the story too. Adam, tell us, because Adam was there for parallel.
Yeah, and what's funny is we had you have this sort of OG crew down south, which was the boys that were in.
What year was this, Adam?
This is about 96, I think, something like that.
So this is all the same time. This is all the same time.
And
are they related to any reggae fest or reggae stuff?
That's the thing. I think reggae is connecting a lot of this stuff.
There's five guys that I know, and we're going to definitely try to get a few of them on the air. One of them here, who's kind of well known, he's already published in High Times, is Matt Bubba from Florida, and he was kind of like piece of the puzzle from the Bubba Kush side, but he brought that to Cali, but the other kids, it's totally two different strains. I mean, they have nothing really to do with each
So
other.
there's a
in my
Bubba
opinion.
Kush and an OG Kush, and
the Bubba is and the Bubba was what he called. I mean, it's kind of like, it's funny because a lot of these strains, they tend to be taglines of what just some guy says all the time about everything. It's not usually even like Diesel.
Like
is kinda-
Diesel was just
Diesel's
his word for like this shit's
everything-
bomb.
Oh, Diesel's, everything seems to be that thing.
Right.
It's like whoever thinks this word up that is the cool word. I mean, my
That's why I
strain.
started saying, like, let's say Western Mass Super Skunk.
Yeah,
I look at it 20 years later, it's like Western Mass Super Skunk. And it didn't start in Western Mass. We took credit to the people who gave it to us.
We started calling Camweed.
Yeah, but it was a lot easier than just being like Super Skunk. Everybody's got a Super Skunk. But you're
right,
like,
you
no,
want to
this is-
distinguish that
is-
phenotype.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So wait, let me ask you guys. So the Western Mass Super Skunk, first of all, does it truly still exist?
You know, I think that there's a guy that just reached out to me recently, and he said he still had it. I haven't met up with him yet, so I don't know if he's just pulling a game or not. But I'm trying to track that fuck down.
Same here.
I know some associates that say they have it, but it's like a beat cut. It went the way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's legit, and you guys would be the best to sort of verify what is out there. But so
I can verify all things. Send it to you guys, and I'll smoke it.
So that came from where? That seed that started that or the cut?
That's supposedly the Sensi 9086. I believe the Sensi Super Skunk. No, from Sensi Seeds, 1986.
Oh.
I believe that came from Virginia. I was born there, I believe, and then it made its way up to Staten Island,
the Virginia crew I thought later said it was like Positronics or something.
So
there
we
was
have a
another
guy.
one we had gotten from Super Sensei. Remember when we went there, we had gotten that Super Sensei Super Skunk, but it was not as good as the one we had gotten from other people.
So we have
and
another
that may have
guy.
gotten mixed in with everything, but eventually breed it out.
So we have another guy who had contacted us who said that he believed it was from. Oh man, I'm trying to get a hold. We're gonna call him back right now. Hopefully he'll answer because he thought he knew exactly what it was, and he put it all through that guy Weasel that I mentioned to P-Bud earlier. So why don't you guys kind of like frame where Weasel fits into this picture and how this all connects and where these.
I don't know who Weasel is. Maybe by face.
Okay, so that's.
I just want to big up P-Bud, by the way, because I was probably like the third person to smoke that after his girlfriends probably. Or in roommate. So thank you for introducing.
No worries.
P-Bud's man.
No, you're the man.
Yeah, I remember the P-Bud. And then stuff was decent.
I didn't know you were on here. What's up, bud?
What's going on?
He's just hiding over there in the corner with a bodyguard.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's hang up. He's not answering. So, who else do we have on the line? Do we have anyone else on the line? I feel like it looks like we have 3 callers. No, we got Chem.
I'm still online.
Oh, there we go.
Chem, we got Chem, P, and Mr. I. And by the way, me and Mr. I are very close. We associate each day, and he's been with me from the start, basically, in this whole thing. So.
Oh, right on.
He's like JB's P-Bud, He's like.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think like G probably got that bag of Chem and was like, "Hi, come fuck over here and smoke this thing." And I was like, "Whoa." And we had already been hanging before that and into very fine cannabis and pursuing it. But it's funny how like 23 years later, this thing has like led to so many different strains, all this different stuff. And
yeah, it's almost the
he doesn't see
25th
it.
anniversary.
The big guy doesn't see it as much because he's home a lot, but I'm out in the field and at festies, and I run into countless people with genetics that say they're this and they're that, and a lot of them probably are traced back to that. And I just want to big up all the young lions and lionesses out there that go around saying they're Chem Dog crew and saying this and that, saying big up to you guys. Keep it going, keep it moving forward. I like to see all these people out there spreading this shit. You can't imagine how big of a thing it is on the East Coast. There's no standard like that. We don't have any dispensaries yet. So there's not, the high grade herb is still hard to get.
No, definitely. I mean, I know, my brothers are still living out there and yeah, I'm very well aware of the situation. And I know how much delivery services in the city charge and how little you get and how very mediocre and Cali outdoor the quality is.
Yeah, they're always saying it's this and it's not and it's that. And it's like, and then you run into a bunch of people and they got some pretty fine offshoot genetics or they've gotten a hold of some of the real genetics from the DOG crew and this shit's fire. And so big up to all those young kids out there keeping it going, keeping it moving forward. It's the 401 treat.
It's funny because I got sick of all the good shit for a while, and like back in like 4 or 5 years ago when I started first getting like Bubba Kush and Purple Urkel, I freaking love those. And people are like, that's garbage compared to what you got. I'm like, but I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I love
I was loving the same thing with him. That Master Kush you got from that person that you got it from was fucking epic.
Well, that person I got it from is pretty famous, so.
Yeah. That was my first time trying it. When you said you came back with that, I'm like, oh my god, that shit.
I traded my jar to Snoop, and he gave me his jar, and it ended up being Master Kush and Bubba Kush. And there was some pretty fire Master and Bubba that he had. But
fire,
loved it.
We got a caller just calling in. Caller, identify yourself, please.
Heirloom, how you guys doing?
Hey, Heirloom, what's going on, bud? So,
hey, it's nice to talk to you in English. This is Mitch or Adam?
Yeah, this is Mitch. Adam's
Adam
on the
right
line.
here. Adam's right here. How you guys doing?
Yeah.
So, and you're also on the line with Chem.
Mr. Heirloom.
We never met. He just recently reached out to me. So I've never met him. I've seen.
We're not going to say any common names in this thing.
We have met actually. We met, but yeah, I haven't listened to the show. Unfortunately, I've missed part of the podcast. So I don't know where you guys are at right now.
Oh, no worries. I mean, why don't you guys sort of bring them up? We're sort of connecting the dots. We had JJ on the line talking about the Star Dog. We covered the Snow Dog. The piece that you could fill us in on was what that mass super skunk was.
Well, honestly, what I remember, I don't know if my belief is that it came from the old sativa seed company, Sativa or Sensi Star now. And it was super skunk grown by, I believe, a guy named Weasel. Was my belief at the time in the valley. Instead of people saying it came from Europe, there are I heard a lot of people say.
Well, Super Sativa Seed Company, were they European, Adam, or they
were Dutch? Yeah, they were a combination. They were a Dutch company, but they basically took orders in Holland and then they would send out of America. So they had growers all over the states doing it for them. So
that
means
the Western Mass Super Skunk, though, that is that Virginia cut that those guys talk about.
Okay.
Wherever it came from, I don't know about the Weasel person having the cut or not, but
Peebo, do you have you seem to know the Weasel, dude. Can you weigh in?
No, I've never,
you know Weasley guys.
I don't know. I don't know this Weasel.
You don't know this particular Weasel?
Weasels, but not this one. No, I just.
Is Weasel? Is he from the East Coast? Does anybody know?
No, it was a West. I mean, he was one of the main farmers for those guys in the late '80s, and he was called Super Skunk Weasel, and that was my understanding of how the Massachusetts Super Skunk came about. Was from him. So that was my belief at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the original cut that I got was from Virginia, I got from the Staten Island crew, which was a Sensi Seed 86 Super Skunk.
So Ken, was that from Skunk VA?
Yes.
Okay, so we have. I just heard from our boy Telly. He's hitting Skunk VA up right now. I don't know if we're going to be able to get him on this show, but.
Well, we'll have to continue the show again, right? If we can.
If not, Chris is shaking his head because the technical difficulties are not. We're not built to be a conference line, evidently, and not with our time.
I was going to enjoy these conferences. These are getting nice.
I know, so we're going to have to bring it back. We got to wrap it up because we are going over time here. But gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being on the air, and we'll do this.
And like we said, this is a story that's going to take like 20 episodes probably. At
Well,
some point.
it took 23 years for it to build to this point of myth, so it's going to take a couple weeks for us to break it back.
1
down.
year a week, we're breaking down basically is what it's coming down to.
Well, no,
I got a quick question. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you guys wanted
I got
also.
a quick question for Chem. Do you remember a strain, the Dom?
I do not.
Okay.
But I'm a little cooked. I'm a little older, and I'm a little. I mean,
yeah. Sure.
You're a freshman,
the Black Domino. The Black Domino.
Is that the one from the Pioneer Valley?
It's not the regular Black Domino you see all over the place. It was probably the skunkiest herb I've ever smoked in my life. It was very dark green, blackish color. I mean, I know some of the Black Doms look like that, but this was I can get to the bottom of it in 2 days, but we believe it was half Mass Super Skunk, and we're getting down to the other half. I just have to make a few different phone calls to get to that. But that was probably some of the best smoke in that area from 98 to 2005. And it's a lot of our opinions.
Hey there, before we wrap this totally up, I remember there was a comment earlier that you guys wanted to sort of lay something straight about certain strains. Was there a strain out there that you guys wanted to clear up?
I wanted to. I remember the. Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
Shoot, I might lose you guys. If I lose you guys, I'll talk soon. We'll be in touch, Adam.
Yep.
And Mitch, just message me and let me know when you want me on again. I'm
Sounds
just going
good.
in the dead zone.
Dead zone.
Cool. So, but we do. Yeah, let's give you a chance to clear that up.
Well, we could. I don't know how much time we have. Should we? I don't know. But
Basically, it's basically the question. What I remember being there is that Super Dog we called Orange Diesel, and that was my question. If they're the same strain or two different ones, I remember it being the same.
So Orange Diesel is just the Diesel. Like for a little while, it was called like Orange Diesel. It does have a very orangey
So
smell.
it was
but
basically a nickname, right?
No, Diesel is different than the Super. What you were calling the Snow Dog, which is for a little while. It was
No,
called
I'm sorry.
Snow
I'm
Dog.
sorry. The Super Dog, the Candy and Super Skunk was AK Orange Diesel we called because that had that really orange taste to it. As I remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Orange Diesel was just a nickname and it's really Super Dog. That was the
That's
thing I
really
was trying to
Diesel
clear
now.
up. Okay.
Well, there.
Okay, cool.
Cleared that.
There you go. Cleared.
Cleared.
Boom.
Boom.
Here on the Adam Dunn
Excellent.
Show, taking care of shit.
Clearing shit up around.
I've been wanting that cleared up for a few days.
There you go.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, thank you all for being on the call. We will pick this up, and I think this merits its own 2-hour show to really delve into it. And then we'll try to bring some of the OG people on. But once again, we'll be in touch. Thanks again for being on the air. Listening audience, thank you guys for bearing with us with the technical difficulties and stuff today. Let's wrap things up. Let's shout out Way to Grow
Thanks,
again.
guys. Have a good day.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you
See
guys.
you guys.
Talk soon.
Adios, amigos.
Yeah,
thanks,
peace.
guys. Let's shout to Way to Grow, Incredibles. Rewind the show and check it out. If you haven't caught the beginning of the show, it'll be on iTunes tomorrow. It'll be on YouTube later today or early tomorrow.
Shout out to my beautiful wife up on the hill with my stunning baby now. He has a faux hawk. He's got his first faux hawk.
Oh,
I was like, damn,
how fancy,
looking pretty slick. Little Nick running around taking care of, keeping her busy, I'm sure. Petey with the pet over there. Like I said, coming soon to Way to Grow. The big guy in the corner who's not just a bodyguard, he's actually Medcana, El Presidente of Medcana. We'll have him on the show, probably have him call in because he takes up too much studio space. So we will have him call in probably soon and get updates on what he's about because I am a part of his crew and we are taking over this place now. We are doing consulting big time here and all over the states where when needed, like superheroes, I fly to where they
Superheroes
need
of
to
weed.
be, and I take care of things.
Yeah.
But we will have him on the show in the future. Thank you, bodyguard / El Presidente.
El Presidente.
No problem. Young Carlos.
And I got to give
Young
shouts.
Carlos in that corner. And big shout outs.
Shouts to my wife, lovely pregnant wife Reese.
2
little
weeks
baby
away.
that is
Oh my
clearly
God.
has developed ears and can hear my voice right now over the internet through a computer, through a uterus. That's insane. Also got to give shouts again. Check out current issue of High Times.
Oh yeah, and this Friday is First Friday at the
First
Hood
Friday
Lab,
at the
so
lab.
don't miss out. We have a totally new installation. Matt Outsinger, he's a local artist, super hot, and come down and check it out. We also got DJ Stretch. DJing all night. So
It's a fun
sick.
time.
Friday,
Come check
6
it out.
6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3354 Larimer. Come check it out.
In Denver. If you're not
Yes.
in Denver and you want to check it out, you should definitely link up with the lab on Facebook, link up with the Adam Dunn Show on Facebook, link up with us on iTunes, link up with us on YouTube. We're all over the place. It's also AdamDunnShow.com.
Oh my God.
If you want to subscribe if you have like an iPad or an iPhone, as in if you like are in sort of like modern technology.
If you don't live in the woods.
Yeah. Go to AdamDunnShow.com/podcast. You can subscribe right there. You'll get it connected to your phone. You don't have to catch the episode on time. Maybe one day we'll even edit out the parts where the technology is not working.
Make them all smooth.
Also, Amazon.com, the Cannabis Aficionado's Handbook It's up there. It's for sale. It's the first edition. Please grab them and rate them and tell me that you like my book, I hope. Check it out now. Adam, you got anything else?
That was some selfless advertising.
I got to do it, man.
That was terrible. No, I'm good. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot. Peace.